Hello, welcome to the Fanfic Majesty. Chapter 221. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Chapter 221 Fighting. Jihaha, Roger, I didn't expect that it's been so long, and your abilities are indeed quite enough. Golden Lion laughed frantically. Really, it's a pity that in my eyes, you are still only suffocating your teeth as always. Roger's words successfully angered the Golden Lion. The coercion of the two collided with each other, as if an appointment had been made. Except for hockey, no other weapons were used to attack each other. But just hockey is enough to make everyone one of them, shock. Bang. In just a few seconds, the two have passed dozens of moves. What a strong pressure. The two punched and kicked and saw the hurricane rolled up, scattered on Qin Luo's shoulders, and the peach rabbit in his arms couldn't help sighing softly. Go, step forward and take a look. Qin Luo's voice was indifferent as water, leading a group of people into the center of the duel. Where is the hairy boy? Don't you see that the old ladies are in a duel? Quickly go. Golden Lion drew in a low voice, deafening, almost smashing the eardrums of the people underneath. Qin Luo stretched out his muscles and yawned lazily. What a duel, I only saw two people playing the house. Advertisement. Qin Luo's breezy words shocked everyone present, and then Golden Lion reacted, and a trace of anger flashed through a pair of streamlined eyes. Good boy, I think it's what I came from, but I'm just a yellow-haired boy. If you interrupt others first, and dare to speak unruly, Grandpa will let you know what strength is today. Jinbert and Roger looked at each other, and the two of them put out their arrogance at the same time, and looked at Luyun in front of them with a slight irony. Oh, I was a good guy at the time, but I was just a yellow-haired boy who didn't even dare to show his face. Grandpa will teach you how to be a good person today. His voice was rough and hoarse, with a rough shout, and his movements quickly approached Qin Luo with strong pressure. Even Qin Luo had to wring his eyebrows with the aura, as he deserves to be a person who can dominate one side, and the pressure on his body is really better than Impel Down's dishes. But it's only better. Qin Luo's mouth was full of coldness, but for the first time he smiled like this, and the coldness on his body burst out suddenly, like a huge ice cellar, and it made people to shrink back. Boy, it's too late to beg for mercy. Golden Lion still felt that it was too improper to deal with such a young and energetic yellow-haired boy, so he tried Tosa Press again and again, and the pirates under him were stunned. Smiling, waiting to see Qin Luo make a fool of himself. Noisy. Qin Luo's thin lips lightly opened, and he jumped quickly, just gently on his toes, and jumped 3 stories high, above the Golden Lion's head, and the corner of his mouth smiled even more. Full body level. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. In just a moment, Qin Luo's fist swelled to the size of a giant tree in the sky, greeting him on top of the Golden Lion's head. Oh, it's a strange ability. Golden Lion raised his eyebrows, and immediately put on a contemptuous smile. Well, Grandpa will play with you today. He moved quickly around Qin Luo's fist, and Roger stepped aside, looking at the two people in front of him with complicated expressions. Grandpa doesn't know what fruit you ate, but boy, do you know that people who ate devil fruit have to fight against the king of the sea, and there is only one dead end. Golden Lion's voice was very weak, exuding a jealous smile. There seemed to be grit in his throat, and a pair of eyes flashed with bloodthirsty smiles. Advertisement. Qin Luo laughed contemptuously, as if he uttered a very funny joke, then jumped behind Golden Lion in an instant, and instantly hit his rough waist with a fist harder than steel. The action is so fast that everyone present can't even see how he moves. What? Golden Lion's face condensed, and he gradually realized that Qin Luo in front of him was difficult to deal with. And the members on the boat board, not to mention, they don't know what happened just now. It is true that Qin Luo's movements have almost reached the state of superb imagination, and it is really difficult for ordinary people to catch it with the naked eye. Only the Golden Lion that was hit was aware of it. Boy, give your name. Golden Lion's face was solemn, and he smiled again. Roger on the other side closely followed Qin Luo's eyes, his eyes deep, as if he wanted to see through him. Do you think you will die today? Qin Luo did not answer his question, asking the other way around. Golden Lion's complexion was suffocated, and then he burst out with an exaggerated smile. Jia ha ha ha, you little baby, wouldn't you think that you were lucky enough to hit me with a punch, and then put your eyes into the sky, you can kill me. Zero seeking flowers. Qin Luo chuckles. You are not stupid. Well, I am not interested in killing you if I am not enough. If I kill you, there is nothing interesting to watch. Although the conversation between Qin Luo and Golden Lion was only a few short sentences, it was enough to surprise everyone present. The strength of Golden Lion is obvious to all. For so long, Even the battleship sent by the Marine government has hardly hurt him. The fight with Roger just now was evenly divided. And Captain Golden Lion actually admitted that this man hurt him. Looking at the Golden Lion again, the breathing sound is slightly thicker. I am afraid that it has consumed a lot of physical energy. Advertisement. How is this going? While the people underneath were astonished, the two opposing people had reached a point where they would not give in to each other. 0. Golden Lion took the lead in punching Qin Luo's fate, intending to kill him with a single blow, but Qin Luo's speed is extremely fast. It seems like a bird with wings, the pace is flashing fast, one come and two, also it consumes a lot of Golden Lion's physical strength. Jia, I think you have any power, so I can only run away. Golden Lion can't get a little angry many times, but because of face, he had to use the radical method. Hey, Qin Luo smiled sarcastically, I'm afraid that if I don't flash, you will be beaten to death by me. What can I do if I don't have to play at that time? Qin Luo said that the clouds are light and the wind is light, but the people underneath took a breath. How arrogant this is. The opponent is Golden Lion. This man not only dared to fight him head on. I dare to speak insultingly and say that I want to play with him. Golden Lion was repeatedly provoked, and now something really touched his endurance line. The smile on the corner of his mouth gradually condensed, and immediately overflowed with an icy smile. Very well. I will kill you today, and throw into the sea together with your crew as a memorial service. Golden Lion waved his big palm, and quickly approached Qin Luo, but the latter's actions were even more swift. After a fight, Golden Lion was obviously at a disadvantage. Before Qin Luo moved extremely fast, the crew underneath could not see clearly. Now Qin Luo slowed down specially and hit the Golden Lion with a visible attack. Such a blow was more shocking than before. This man in the red robe and dark clouds seems to be more difficult than imagined. Report. 29%. Chapter 222. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Golden Lion grinned. Gigi grinned strangely. You really are not as weak as you seem on the surface. Qin Luo Junyi raised his eyebrows. In your eyes, I am very weak and can't help but wind. Golden Lion's smile expanded. No, you are very strong, even stronger than I thought, but, way done, you succeeded in angering me. As soon as Golden Lion's voice fell, his figure quickly reached behind Qin Luo, and he held armament hockey with one hand. The powerful pressure penetrated his hair and raised his shirt behind him. Huh. Qin Luo narrowed his eyes, and the two of them circulated quickly. The sea water underneath was hovering tightly due to the huge coercive air current, forming a big vortex. And many more. The voice came from Roger, and his smile in a red robe was a little weird. The movements of the two were therefore stalemate. Luyun, look up for a long time. His voice was extremely rough, but he couldn't contain the surprise in his heart. Do you know him? Golden Lion asked with a narrow expression. Roger ignored him and jumped right in front of Qin Luo. Liuyun's name has long been heard. It is admirable to be able to fight 5 elders and walk out of impel down, ha ha ha. Roger's words seemed indifferent, but they stunned everyone in surprise. It's a lie. Roger, that little yellow-haired boy, is really as good as you said. The voice of one of the people on the Golden Lion ship trembled, and Roger smiled on his lips. Speaking of it, impel down still occupies a lot of status in the eyes of Golden Lion and others at this time. Advertisement. That is one of the 3 major deployment locations appointed by Marine. This Luyun even fought 5 elders. Roger showed disdain. Is it possible that Roger needs to deceive you? The other people's faces condensed. Indeed, for a man who interrupted Roger's duel in the middle, if the opponent had the ability to make him jealous, Roger would not be jealous. Thinking of this, Qin Luo is also highly regarded by everyone. Joke. That's an existence that can be ignored even in the face of the Marine government. Qin Luo seemed to be very satisfied with everyone's response. On the other hand, Golden Lion's expression became tight, as if he had eaten a fly. This. In an instant, he seemed to have a clear picture of the situation. He smiled and said, Luyun, I was the one who collided at first. This is over. Let's still speak morality. Qin Luo smiled with a bit of moving coconut. Oh. Didn't you say you want to show me some color at first? Golden Lion's complexion was suffocated, and he concealed it with a smile. It's for the color. Flowing clouds. Look, the sea here is blue. Does this color look good? Qin Luo narrowed his eyes. Huh. So you said this color. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. Of course it's this color. Of course such a blue sea must be seen by Brother Luyun. Golden Lion's words fell into other people's ears, causing a rush of disdain. He, who was still clamoring, now looks flattering, which is really embarrassing. But even though I thought so, no one dared to say it. Qin Luo nodded, pinched his face and smiled. If this is the case, I won't say any more. They are the overlords of this sea, and they have to be peaceful. Qin Luo acted as a peacemaker for a while. Golden Lion drew straight on his face, but still smiled. Yes, yes, fighting will definitely not be advocated in the future. Advertisement. Qin Luo jumped onto his battleship, his voice indifferent. Then I will leave first. Golden Lion watched Qin Luo's departure. Roger just said, Golden Lion, that battle. Before he could finish his words, he was interrupted by Golden Lion. Don't fight. After the words were finished, he asked his men to quickly set sail. Boss, why should we retreat step by step? It was the capable man under Golden Lion's hands that spoke out the aspirations of everyone. After all, according to Golden Lion's temperament, being so provoked by a man, even if Roger is there, he is not afraid of things, but Golden Lion only made a respectful gesture, allowing people to step on his head. Golden Lion's face sank, and his eyes seemed to fall into a long period of contemplation. It's not easy. Just a few words, nothing more. No one else knew the mystery of the fight just now. Only Golden Lion knew it better. Although it seemed that it was about to begin, if it wasn't for Roger's interruption in the middle, he might not be able to survive today. The reason why he had such thoughts was because he saw the killing intent boiling in Qin Luo's eyes. His eyeballs are strange, with complicated patterns spinning fast. It's confusing. Years of sailing experience told him that this flowing cloud is definitely not as simple as he imagined. So he had the idea of retreat. Even if he loses his old face, he can't irritate Lu Yun. On the other side, Roger was about to set sail, and the crew looked at him sarcastically. That Golden Lion, but so, was scared away by your boss in a few words, that Lu Yun is just a hairy boy, how can it be so powerful? Quote. Roger curled his eyebrows, and faced the crew member who spoke with a little disdain. Golden Lion is wise to do this. What? Boss, I heard that right. The crew was surprised. Advertisement. The strength of that Lu Yun is too deep. I approached him twice and tried to find out the depth of his strength, but let alone the bottom, I was almost backlashed. Roger's memory quickly turned to the situation at that time, his suddenly interrupted, thinking deeply as to rescue Golden Lion, and the real purpose is to explore the true strength of Qin Luo. It's just that Qin Luo's strength is hidden deep, how can he explore it? Roger solemnly said, this grand line, I'm afraid it's really going to change. The Fish-Men Island. Knowing that Gai Zhan of Lu Yun, the people of the Fish-Men Island prepared the welcome team early in the morning. Lu Yun God, are you here? Neptune shook his huge body to greet him. Qin Luo nodded. Neptune pretended to be angry. I replayed a pigeon on the god of flowing clouds. I must make it up tonight. Qin Luo knew that he was talking about the previous missed appointment, and she smiled 0.1%. Naturally, then I will listen to you tonight, and I will take them to the Dragon Palace to find you. Okay. Neptune smiled more, seeing Taudu thought that she was in Qin Luo's arms, and resigned very clearly. Then don't disturb Lu Yun God, we will wait at the Dragon Palace tonight. After sending Neptune away, Qin Luo's slender fingers were inserted between the delicate hair of Peach Rabbit. It's extra clingy today. Taudu smiled. Because the boss is especially heroic today, hockey. Qin Luo pinched her face contentedly. This sentence is a statement of facts. I will reward you for a big meal tonight. Thank you, boss, Taudu threw in his arms. Okay, I will go to the Fish-Men Island for a round, and you will stay here. Qin Luo said. Ninetails leaned out behind him. Boss, I will go too. Chapter 223. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Watching Qin Luo away, Hedan sighed with envy. Oh, it's better to be the boss. I can actually get the heart of Taudu. I am too envious. Taudu laughed. Don't say that. Tsunade's expression is a bit complicated. Peach Rabbit, she stopped Peach Rabbit, her face was rare and serious. We are all women who are going to fight, but I don't think it's good to be too soft. Tsunade doesn't know why she is godly. I said this without knowing it, but I still persuade myself to consider the overall situation. Hedan chuckled. You are jealous that you can't play with the cuteness of the Peach and Rabbit. Tsunade's face turned black, and his tender bare hands pinched Hedan's ears. You don't disturb the military's mind for my old lady, I'm thinking about the overall situation. Hedan bared his teeth and couldn't help shouting. Don't think that I dare not do it to you. Just a few words will reveal your nature. What is for the sake of the overall situation, the human Peach Rabbit has the boss guarding it, and when the danger comes, go to the boss. A nest in her arms, who can hurt her? Tautu turned red when Hidan said frankly, and slightly blamed. I also want to share the responsibility for the boss, and it's not that everything depends on the boss. It's just that her anger was drunk, and Hidan's ears added a bit of coquetry. Hidan broke away from Tsunade's restraint and jumped to the side of the peach rabbit. See you. What sounds like a oriole? This is it. After saying nothing, pointed at Tautu. Tsunade suffocated and remembered the scene when Chin Luo tried his best to protect the peach and rabbit, and the dark color that couldn't be opened was added to the eyes. I see. The boss is very affectionate to Tautu too, otherwise it would be impossible for Tautu to hold her and squeeze her face with pity. Hidan mimicked it brilliantly. Tsunade's eyes fell down. In the darkness, there is no look. Did you see it? That's it. Hidan sank into self-entertainment. Tsunade left without saying a word. When he reacted, Tautu hurriedly tapped Hidan. I blame you. Tsunade was ran away by you. Hidan froze. I ran and ran away. The man was so powerful that no one hurt her. Advertisement. Tautu's expression was hardly tightened. Tsunade seems to have something on his mind. We have to chase it out and have a look. Drink. Outside of the Dragon Palace, Tsunade attached chakra with one hand, and strenuously hit the boulder in front of him. The boulder was shattered under her palm, and a loud noise ran through the sky. Tsunade, why did you come here? Tautu caught up with her, worried in her eyes. Practicing exercises. Tsunade finished speaking blankly, and immediately smashed a huge rock with his force. Tisk tut, Tautu, don't get close to these girls. If you are hurt, the boss will feel distressed again. Hidan poked his head out and said. Tsunade's complexion sank, chakra in his palm quickly rose, and he smashed the three-person high boulder in front of him into powder. At the same time, a slender spider crack broke out on the ground. It shattered in an instant, and one was blown out within a 10-meter diameter deep pit. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. Wow, Tsunade, what are you going crazy? Doing exercises won't trigger an earthquake. You are so careful that I sue you in front of the boss. Hidan craned his neck. After a short while, Tsunade appeared behind Hidan, his eyes flashing thickly with loss, but it was well covered up. You say it again. Feeling the woman behind him condensing chakra, Hidan's face tightened. I was kidding, Sister Tsunade, don't tell me. Who do you think is a man-in-law? Tsunade's face condensed, as if he was about to swallow Hidan in front of him. Hidan swallowed. You never saw such a big reaction when you said that before. What happened to you today? Bang. Tsunade pushed him directly on the back. Advertisement. Hidan screamed and rubbed his waist, his face grim. FK, what are you going crazy? When Tautu saw the words of the two in front of him, she seemed to have discovered something and was a little worried, but in her tone of voice she had never been more serious. Tsunade, are you in love with the boss? The atmosphere froze. Damn, I said how could Tsunade be so abnormal today, and I'm so happy. Hidan was kicked by Tsunade before he finished speaking, asking him to swallow the next words into his stomach. I didn't. Tsunade was expressionless, and she now had a little coldness on her body, which was completely different from when she faced other people's enchantment before. Actually, there is nothing wrong with liking the boss. Tautu said with a gentle face. The boss is so powerful, and so short-sighted, and only bullies are bullied. It is natural for such a good man to like it. Tsunade's complexion softened a bit, seemingly scrupulous, but did not answer her words after all. If you mind if the boss likes your character, it doesn't matter, I can help you reshape your image, and make the boss like it. Seeing Tautu's serious face, Tsunade glanced at her clothes. She has always liked plain colors, so her clothes are simple and tight. Really? Can it? Rarely hesitated. Yes. Tautu confirmed Tsunade's heart, and the smile at the corner of her mouth became softer. FK. Although it's weird, Tsunade, go after love without any scruples, I won't bury you. Hidan rubbed his mouth and walked forward, his face was full of a look at you being so sincere in love. Kejian, if I don't blame the things before, Tsunade sneered and kicked and deformed his face. Give my old mother amnesia. After Chin Luo and Ninetails returned from investigating the information, they saw Hidan guarding the door outside the room. Advertisement. Hidan, why is your face 827 swollen? Ninetails looked horrified. I'm holding back. I'm bored, muddy, I'm holding the restricted area. Don't mention it. I'm guarding the door, you don't go in. Quote. Understood. Ninetails wiped the saliva from her face. At the same time, Tautu poked his head out of the room. Huh, Tautu, are you in there too? What's the matter? Chin Luo stepped forward, but was stopped by a long lotus arm when he wanted to go in. No, you can't go in yet. You boys, go to the banquet first, Tautu smiled conspiratorially. Why? Qin Luo looked around, naturally not as he expected. No, I can't watch it. Tautu shouted, afraid that the surprise she had prepared for such a long time would be destroyed. Tsunade is changing clothes inside, do you want to see her naked? Tautu's words successfully stopped Qin Luo from going in, thinking of Tsunade charmingly taking off his clothes. His skin was white as porcelain, the waves on his chest looked like two giant white pigeons, and the depths of his smooth thighs were deep. The Black Forest. Qin Luo's face turned red and turned around. Then let's go first, you guys as soon as possible. Hidan smiled with a swollen face. I just closed my eyebrows and hee. Tsunade is undressed hee. Qin Luo knocked hard on his head. Don't think about it. Go. Chapter 224. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Lu Yunshan, finally waiting for you. Neptune stepped forward politely, with a look of flattery. Qin Luo nodded and took the table at will. The banquet is about to begin, and the surrounding atmosphere is extremely hot for an instant, but Tsunade and others have not yet arrived. Hidan hasn't expected it several times in the capital. On the other hand, Qin Luo is quite calm. Boss, aren't you excited? Hidan was curious. It's just a change of clothes, what's so exciting? Obviously, I don't know that Tsunade is specially dressed for him. Qin Luo is much calmer. After a while, with staggered steps outside, the long palace hall, which was originally singing and dancing, was suffocated because of the people who entered suddenly. To be precise, it is because the visitors are so dazzling. The visitor is Tsunade, who loves plain clothes on weekdays. Now she wears a red dress with a long tassel around her waist, and a complicated pattern on her shoulders. Peach Rabbit specially applied makeup for her, and her cheeks are pink. A pair of sakura lips are a little bit crimson, which complements the deep red dress. Tsunade's long golden hair was loosened, and she casually placed it on her shoulders. Her skin was even brighter under the candlelight of the Dragon Palace. The pair of waves in front of her were even more enchanting under the red skirt. Everyone took a deep breath. If the previous Tsunade was a kind of feminine beauty in the soft and rigid, then this time, it has completely become the appearance of the country and the city. A pair of big eyes are shining with starlight, clearly not dipped in a drop of wine, but there is a fragrance of wine on the body, and he is slightly drunk before he gets close. The men present were shocked by Tsunade's costume for a long time but couldn't recover. Nice. It's so beautiful. Advertisement. Beauty. Did you go wrong? Hidan stepped forward, and it was not difficult to see the surprise in his face. Tsunade's red lips mentioned it, smiled charmingly at Hidan, and instantly captured him, and then quickly approached Hidan's ears, with a voice like ice. If you dare to ruin the good deeds of my old lady tonight, I have to kill you. Hidan is an exciting spirit. It's Tsunade. That's right. Hidan tears. The other men obviously didn't know what happened just now, and there was a lot of fanaticism in their eyes facing Tsunade. A bald minister in the Dragon Palace stepped forward. Ms. Tsunade, I wonder if I would be interested in dancing with the old man. If it was the previous Tsunade, I was afraid that it would be greeted with a punch. Maybe the atmosphere is just right. Tsunade is rarely upset, with a slight smile. No, I'll come to make an appointment. Just a simple smile. In an instant, Fanghua was lost. What is the allure of the country? What is Yanran smile? This is. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. Before everyone recovered, Tsunade was already walking towards Qin Luo. Qin Luo is in the upright position, but generally people with high authority sit in the chief, and for a while, everyone underneath is guessing who Tsunade is going for. Who can be so honored? I was invited by Tsunade personally. Those who were swept by Tsunade, although disappointed, would not have any crooked thoughts. After all, Tsunade is really beautiful today, and the more powerful people in the Fishman Island are, the more powerful they are in the Fishman Island. Naturally, they don't dare to know themselves. Climb high. Qin Luo watched Tsunade walking towards him step by step. The eyes are smiling, the steps are correct, and the red dress is placed on the ground, swaying, adding a bit of coquettishness. Advertisement. It really is beautiful. Tsunade sings, smiling heartily. Boss. Qin Luo was slightly startled, unavoidably obsessed with Tsunade. After all, she is really amazing today, completely different from before. However, Qin Luo's concentration is still very good, and he returned to normal in an instant. You are here. Tsunade nodded and was stunned for a moment when he saw Qin Luo. He didn't even mention it, but he returned to normal in a flash, and he was shocked before he was happy in the future. Didn't you let him notice so much? The people below saw that the person Tsunade was looking for was Qin Luo, and they were not dissatisfied at all. After all, the strength is there. Everyone can see the status of Luyun God on Mermaid Island. There is only Qin Luo who can be worthy of such a country and city. One person. Haha. Tsunade girl is really overwhelming today. Neptune commented in praise, and the atmosphere quickly returned to fiery. Taotu happened to follow at this time. How about it? This is my masterpiece. Qin Luo cast a approving look, then turned his eyes back to the banquet. Tsunade couldn't help feeling a little lost, but only for a moment. His mind returned to the banquet. During the banquet, the arrogant staggered. Hidan seemed to unintentionally walk around Tsunade's side, slightly drowsy. Look at the boss still holding the peach rabbit. How do I feel that your clothes today are the same as if they weren't? Quote. Tsunade's complexion narrowed, her eyes filled with loss, but a faint smile appeared in a flash, and she pinched Hidan hard. Don't spoil my old lady's interest. Only after a while later, Qin Luo's figure disappeared suddenly. Where is the boss? Tsunade couldn't help but ask softly, frowning. The boss is out, there seems to be some feeling. Hidan was drunk and hiccuped. Tsunade immediately pulled his feet out, and saw Qin Luo in a red robe in front of the Dragon Palace, and shouted at him. Boss. Advertisement. Qin Luo nodded and stayed in front of her. If anyone looked at it, it would inevitably feel that the two of them are a good match tonight. Although Qin Luo's face is covered by a mask, she still can't hide her strong figure. The two wore red together. It appears softer in dark colors. Yeah. Qin Luo Kaido's voice was low and powerful. Are you going out again? Tsunade's cheeks are flushed, and it seems that there is something stuck in his throat, but as long as he thinks of Qin Luo's handsome and angry face under the mask, he swallows the words as many as possible. Well, I have some feelings, I need to verify it. Qin Luo's eyebrows narrowed, seeing Tsunade hesitating for a while, as if there was nothing to say, he raised his foot to leave. Tsunade's face turned red behind him, and he rarely showed the gesture of a little woman. Qin Luo condensed his eyebrows, turned around quickly, and smiled heartily at Tsunade. Your skirt looks pretty good today. Is he complimenting himself? Tsunade rarely put away his sturdy side, hesitated for a while, and then asked, is it just a skirt? Seeing her expression as extremely serious, Qin Luo is also rare to answer him seriously. The whole person is pretty good looking. Tsunade was enraged. Qin Luo smiled. I'm leaving, I will find you to beat your legs and shoulders again, haha. In a blink of an eye, Qin Luo maneuvered all things in the melt water and galloped towards the Holy Land. At the banquet just now, he clearly sensed that the sense of distinguished heavenly gods, 5 elders are now gathered together, there must be nothing good. The air around him kept slipping from his ears, Qin Luo's face condensed, and the corners of his mouth were filled with slightly ironic news. Unexpectedly, the 5 elders was so uneasy that it only took a few days to rest and began to make noise again. He held the mask on his face, and the red robe on his body made people unable to look away, and the speed was so fast. Let Luyun come to meet you. Chapter 225. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Holy Land. Speaking of the Golden Lion, it's really a bit of a shame. The curly-haired old man made his throat rough, and was the first to express his opinion. It's not bad. The battle between him and Roger is indeed something remarkable. The vertical whose face was solemn, and his thin body seemed to be quite profound in his eyes. Roger was injured in this battle. It's a good opportunity to clean it up. The curly-haired old man continued, pinching a deep smile at the corner of his mouth. How did you know? The bald old man couldn't help asking. As soon as they were about to fight hot, Luyun appeared. It should be said that both sides should retreat completely. Speaking of which, Golden Lion has played against Luyun, and he is more likely to be injured. Vertical who analyzed in an orderly manner. No, if you want to talk about it, between Roger and Golden Lion, it is obvious that Golden Lion's strength will be slightly better. In the subsequent voyages, although Roger tried his best to cover up, it is not difficult to see that he still suffered a certain degree of injury. Quote. So, the vertical who nodded, and it was understood. Then the most urgent matter now is to send someone to arrest that Roger, take advantage of the vacancy, and avoid trouble in the future. He proposed. The yellow-haired old man strongly praised. Gar is extraordinary. He has always tied with Roger before. Now Roger is injured. Let him go. He wants to be 653. Advertisement. Really? If you don't take advantage of this opportunity to act, I'm afraid that there will be extra problems in the future. No matter what, it is better to be more cautious. The curly-haired old man wrinkled his brows, and after a short while, he seemed to think of something again, and his face condensed. No, now that Roger is injured, this is our best opportunity. According to Garp's strength, bring a few warships. Isn't it easy to deal with Roger? The bald old man was extremely appreciative of Garp. I hope it's what I'm saying now. If Garp makes any mistake, it's really a missed opportunity. The curly-haired old man thought deeply. This time we will give him a military order. If not, we will have to pay him full responsibility. With such a good opportunity, it is a big deal to send another lieutenant general as a back support to be needed from time to time. If you make a mistake, you can only say that Roger's life is dead. The yellow-haired old man suggested, and paused slightly. It can be considered as giving enough face to Roger to send so many people to arrest him. Garp doesn't seem like a person who is afraid of death. The curly-haired old man said, the implication is that Garp is not even afraid of death, so how can he be afraid of your order? Gar is not afraid of death. The yellow-haired old man happened, his lips curled strangely, but don't forget, he also has a son. If we Marine do our best to deal with his son, do you think he will afraid? Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. I don't think it's necessary. Vertical who said, if we threaten Garp with a dragon, it will arouse his rebellion, but it will be self-defeating, and it will not be worth the loss. So, the yellow-haired old man groaned slightly, and seemed to be thinking about the method, then follow the order according to the normal form. No matter what, this is the military order Garp got. He will not be delayed because of anything. It's certain. We will talk to him first. If the situation changes, it will not be too late to threaten the dragon. Everyone was quite satisfied with the yellow-haired old man's plan, and after unanimously nodded and passed, the atmosphere instantly solidified for a moment. Speaking of it, that Luyun, being able to intervene in the fight between the two, is also considered extraordinary strength. Vertical Hu Zonkin's evaluation made the yellow-haired old man's complexion cold. Hey, it's a prestigious material. Quote. The bald old man showed his face. Yellow hair, you were almost killed by Luyun before, but now you are hardened. Advertisement. The bald-headed old man's words had a bit of moving coconut in his words. How could the yellow-haired old man fail to hear? His complexion changed, and immediately returned to his normal look, humming disdainfully. What is he flowing cloud? If he appears to me now in front of him, he must be broken into 10,000 pieces. Oh, yellow hair, this is what you said, and then it depends on your ability. The bald old man smiled sarcastically at the corners of his mouth, as if he expected that the yellow hair would not dare to repeat after being bullied by Luyun last time. HMPH, then you have to take a good look. The yellow-haired old man held his head high, with disdain on his face. The discussion in the room was hot, and the yellow-haired old man blew his beard and stared. I'll leave the words here. Just as everyone was in full swing, a gloomy voice outside the door shook everyone inside. I haven't seen it for a long time. I didn't expect you old folks to miss me so much. It's Qin Luo. I saw Qin Luo wearing a red robe and black flowing clouds attached to the robe. The light of the holy place illuminates his figure more generously, and the corners of his mouth curled up with a contemptuous smile, as if he was laughing at the person in front of him. Saw hockey without losing sight. Flow cloud. The yellow-haired old man was talking. After seeing the strong aura on Qin Luo's body, his whole body couldn't stop shaking. Everyone's complexion condensed, but there was no yellowness. The elderly are generally serious. Old thing, I just heard you talk about me. Qin Luo walked to his side calmly, and the latter became stiff and his face turned awkward. Are you afraid of me? Qin Luo asked, his tone full of coconut and contempt. Advertisement. The yellow-haired old man was trembling, and he was different from the awe-inspiring one just now. No matter how hard he dared to look directly at Qin Luo's fierceness. Just kidding, the man in front of him almost beat him to death before. Qin Luo naturally refused to let go of the sarcasm. I heard that you were very bullish. You want to break my body into pieces. The yellow-haired old man froze, his lips moved, but he didn't utter a word for a long time. I'm here, don't run or hide, you dare to move me to try. Qin Luo said. The coercion on his body was released, and his eyes were deep, like the cold wind in the night, turning yellow. The old man bent his waist and couldn't even lift his head. What? Those who are scared dare not even say anything. Qin Luo's lips curled up, mocking wantonly. If the old man with yellow hair had been in the past, he would still be unconvinced, but now, how can he dare to be unconvinced? Only endless panic. The memory of that time is so deep, it seems to have taken root in my mind. The words that will be released are nothing but big talk. If he really wants to fight Qin Luo head on, it will definitely give him 100 courage and dare not make it again. After all, He is really scared. His life is more important than losing some thin face. The thoughts of the yellow-haired old man Qin Luo didn't know, but he was lurking outside. The yellow-haired old man would arrogantly say that he wanted his life in the future. Now he has become a counselor. Qin Luo naturally feels unhappy. Old man with yellow hair, you are such a fool. Chapter 226. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Luyun, the yellow hair will not speak and is just letting you, so don't be too impressed. The old man with curly hair jumped out at the right time with a straight face, and the anger between his eyebrows seemed to kill Qin Luo alive. That's right, what do you really think you are? The four of us here are still afraid of you as a little yellow boy. Vertical who jumped out when he saw it. If they just wanted to see the jokes of the yellow-haired old man and stood behind them all the time, then Qin Luo's words would be a catalyst that would arouse the deepest anger in their hearts. The 5 old men share the same hatred, although one is missing, the remaining 4 will only be more profitable. Of course, except for the bald old man manipulated by Qin Luo. Qin Luo heard what they said and seemed to have expected it, so he was not irritable. Instead, he stood in front of a few people leisurely and smiled contemptuously. Aren't you afraid you already knew it? I will stand today. Here, can you move me a little bit? Qin Luo's words are nothing short of hockey, and all the 4 elders present will take a deep breath. Indeed, as Qin Luo said, they dare not make times. Luyun's strength is obvious to all. The means to kill one of them is obvious, not to mention that he actually walked out of Impel Down and blocked the battle between Roger and Golden Lion. Advertisement. Although these 2 things are just not worth mentioning on 5 elders who are always above them, if they are connected together, when Impel Down is supposed to be exhausted, they did not expect to stop the battle between Roger and Golden Lion. It's not that powerful. Of course, if 5 elders knew that Qin Luo had not only stepped out of Impel Down, but also effortlessly at all, it would be surprising that he couldn't even support his chin. HMPH, how good do you think you are? But it's just a fluke that you won us once, and you even brag about it. The heroes don't mention the bravery of the past. You are so talking about it, I am afraid that there will be no next time, right? The vertical old man spoke, with a thick smile permeating the corner of his mouth. What he meant was that Qin Luo defeated them and blamed it all on luck. It can't be said that there is nothing in the words. Qin Luo couldn't hear it, just too lazy to find the fault. Is it luck that you will find out if you try? I said, today I am standing here Luyun, neither running nor hiding, you hurt me. The provocation in Qin Luo's words really hit his face. 5 elders in front of him looked at each other and had to admit what he said. Indeed, even if Luyun stood here alone, no one among them dared to do one more action against him. After all, it is related to their own lives. The 4 elders who can live to the present are all life-saving generations. In their eyes, Luyun's strength will be a bit inferior to Qin Luo, but if they really want to fight hard, I am afraid that they will at least kill. The enemy's 1000 self-defeated 800. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. Luyun, what on earth do you want to do? The curly-haired old man broke the deadlock first. His face was already slightly impatient. You rushed to our holy land at night. Is it possible that you still want to attack us here? Even if I kill a few of you today, can the marine government let out a fart? Qin Luo tilted his head, with a bloodthirsty smile at the corner of his mouth. 5 elders' complexion condensed. I have to say, if Luyun can really kill the remaining 4 elders here today, with the urinary nature of the marine government bullying, I am afraid that there will be no people who are justified in the future. Advertisement. It's just that the 4 old men have been in high positions for a long time. When have they been so provoked? Luyun, even if you had a chance to win us once before, I advise you to keep your mind before you go out and take a good look at your madness. Do you think you can be invincible if you have some strength? The true strength of the world government is not like that. What you saw so far ago, Luyun, where's your confidence bouncing here? The curly-haired old man had a gloomy face, and his words revealed his beliefs and his deep respect for Qin Luo. Sneer. Qin Luo thought it was interesting, and a smile came up at the corner of his mouth, but he was extremely cold. Old man, do you know who you are talking to? The curly-haired old man smiled even more. Please remind me, I'm talking to a scumbag who has repeatedly violated the dignity of the world government. Because of a fluke victory, the scumbag has been thinking about winning us. It's really funny. Quote. After a slight pause, the curly-haired old man laughed exaggeratedly, and the 3 old men behind him also laughed with great cooperation. It's true that a newborn calf is not afraid of tigers. When the curly-haired old man finished speaking, his smile gradually solidified. They are undoubtedly afraid of Luyun, just Luyun's approach, repeatedly challenging their tolerance limits, not to mention a few five elders are still used to being so despised, Luyun's move is undoubtedly irritating them. 0 seeking flowers 0. But Qin Luo is not a person who is afraid of things. He has a system plus a bug-like full-level function. If it is really hard to face, these elders are really not enough. Listening to your clamor for a long time, but none of them dared to do it. If I guessed correctly, wouldn't you old men just play tricks? I said, if you lose, you lose. Anyway, it's just an old face. Don't care if you don't lose it, it's a shameless pen if you don't admit it. Qin Luo cut his ears out of the ears and put on an expression of, so you were just talking, making the faces of several old men blush. Advertisement. ... The vertical old man twisted his brows together tightly, and jumped out. Luyun, don't be too proud, I'll wait to kill you. It's just a matter of minutes. I haven't done anything until now, but it's just to save Marine. Justice, give you one last chance to repent. I thank you for the opportunity. Qin Luo didn't care. It's the same as the truth, you old men, can't you fight anymore? I don't want to fight out and shout at the 3 lives Luyun God, I just let it go. You guys. The curly-haired old man's complexion sank, and he couldn't help it at first. Wow, Luyun, it's you toasting and not eating fine wine. You will take a good look today, the true power of my 5 elders. What 5 elders? I think there are only 4 of you. Just change your name to 4 old stars. No, it's better to sound like a dead star. Qin Luo smiled sarcastically, and the 4 people on the opposite side became suffocated. The curly-haired old man's fists were already secretly accumulating, and his mouth was still circled with Qin Luo. Naturally, these can't be concealed from Qin Luo's eyes. He just wanted these old men to be unable to bear to act on him, and then he was surprised again. The anti-kill effect could be faster and better than direct surrender. Hugh's madness. With a rough drink, the yellow-haired old man jumped out and slammed a fierce punch towards Qin Luo's chest. The fist was harsh, hitting Qin Luo's eyelids, and the yellow-haired old man smiled contemptuously. Oh, see how you hide this time. Boss. Chapter 227. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. The coercion of this punch is only known to the yellow-haired old man himself. Although it was a swift punch, it was nothing more than a surprise. The harsh palm wind blew Qin Luo's hair in the air. It is not difficult to imagine him behind the mask. Handsome face. Is it just that Qin Luo's figure can be touched by these people? Qin Luo moved swiftly and reached behind the yellow-haired old man, and bypassed his unexpected punch. The speed was so fast that people could not catch it, and a pair of refined eyes fell into darkness. So fast. The yellow-haired old man had no time to react, and his back received a swift punch from Qin Luo. With such a punch on his body, as if being crushed by a truck, blood was poured into his chest. The yellow-haired old man had no time to calm his breath, and he tried to greet Qin Luo again with his fists. The latter's figure flashed, and the yellow-haired old man could only hear his own heavy breathing in an instant. It's too slow. Qin Luo's groan appeared in his ears. The yellow-haired old man was startled, and immediately reacted and folded in horror. Qin Luo's mask appeared enlarged in his pupils. Flowing clouds. The pupils of the yellow-haired old man shrank for a while. In his eyes, Qin Luo looked like Shura from hell. The bitter breath on his body was like a sword, and Ling Qi's heart was horrified all the time. Why, old man, just for the 2 of you, I advise you to clean up as soon as possible and leave people. It will be interesting to lose your name at that time. Qin Luo's thin lips opened lightly, arousing an evil smile. Yellow-mouthed child. With a rough shout, the curly-haired old man slammed forward, and the huge power that gradually condensed in his hand struck Qin Luo's abdomen straight. Its strength is so great that even the surrounding air is squeezed and deformed, producing a small bursting sound. Advertisement. It can be seen how deep the hatred of the curly-haired old man with this punch. The strength in the palm of the old man with curly hair increased rapidly, penetrated into Qin Luo's belly, and felt the softness on the wall of his fist. The old man with curly hair evoked a vicious smile, seeming to be holding the winning ticket, and facing Qin Luo with less fear. Meaning. Qin Luo's body quickly moved back a few inches due to the powerful effect, but in a short time, the curly-haired old man added another punch, and both quickly replaced. The fist hit his abdomen and made a series of muffled noises. Qin Luo he stepped back, and finally his broad back touched the cold wall. Curl. Stop. Vertical Who's face tightened, instinctively feeling something was wrong. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. Speaking of it, Luyun today is really abnormal. Although the punch of the curly-haired old man is really unexpected, they are quite certain that Lu Yun can be slandered, but if you want to say that Lu Yun was beaten to the point where he could not fight back, it's really unconvincing. After all, that's Lu Yun, the man they couldn't deal with 5 elders together. How could he be killed by a few punches from the curly-haired old man? It's just that the curly-haired old man who has hit the rise, how can he hear the words of the vertical old man? The original refined eyes gradually become murderous in the endless punches, and every hit, it adds a little bit of pleasure in my heart, so that later, the curly-haired old man's punches were so violent that ordinary people couldn't catch them. Wow, haha, Lu Yun, I prepared this trick specially for you. Are you not self-reliant very fast? As long as you hit you, I will keep hitting. If you vomit blood and die, hit you all over your body paralyzed. I see how you have to deal with it. The curly-haired old man had a hint of complacency in his words. Today, I want you Lu Yun to stand in and lie down. Qin Luo's entire face lay in the dark, and his soft abdomen leaned back inch by inch under the curly-haired old man's attack. The curly-haired old man's words fell into Qin Luo's ears, and the latter bore his violent emotions without expression. Boxing, the corner of his mouth evokes a faint smile. Curl, don't fight. There is fraud. Vertical who finally couldn't stand it, and wanted to step forward to stop him, but was separated by the coercion of the curly-haired old man. Advertisement. Vertical who, you roll away for lousy. Today lousy is going to take Lu Yun's dog life, don't grab any of you from me. The curly-haired old man's hostility became heavier and heavier in his palms. After a while, Qin Luo was hung on the wall by his fatal blow, and dense spider cracks broke out on the wall behind him. And the curly-haired old man is obviously a little weak, and the speed is obviously lower than the previous punch against Qin Luo. Gradually, the speed at which he raises his fists has decreased a lot. Qin Luo saw in his eyes, the corners of his mouth curled up with a weird smile, his eyes flashed with gloom, and the handsome face under the mask even smelled of bloodthirsty. After a while, the curly hair was completely unable to make a high-intensity punch, and finally he punched Qin Luo violently in the abdomen, making his whole body sink into the wall a bit. Wow, ha ha ha, Lu Yun, I see how powerful you are. The curly-haired old man stopped, panting a little, exhaling roughly, and sweating on his forehead. On the other hand, Qin Luo embedded in the wallpaper without saying a word. Suddenly a dead thing. No. Impossible. Curly hair, you actually killed that flowing cloud. The old man vertical was a little unbelievable, his eyes staring like bells, he couldn't help but stretch out his hand and wave in front of Qin Luo. Seeing that there was really no response, but was even more stunned. Dead. Lu Yun is dead. The yellow-haired old man murmured softly, and let out a crazy smile. Jia ha ha, good to die, good to die. Lu Yun, you never thought about it. Will die in my hands. You trash. The yellow-haired old man happily suppressed his inner joy. The curly-haired old man took a deep breath, then exhaled, and let out a strange smile. Wow, haha, Lu Yun, can let me deliberately research a killer move to your death, neither it's a waste of you to walk in this world, this is the supreme glory for you. Advertisement. The curly-haired old man leaned forward and shook his fist pretendingly, the smile at the corner of his mouth was a little crazy. Where they couldn't see, Qin Luo's lips were under the mask, and a horrible smile evoked. The coldness in his eyes seemed to be a sword, which could cramp the people in front of him by 3.4. The few elders didn't know what they were going to face, and they wanted to celebrate the joy of defeating Lu Yun. Curl, thanks to your blow, in the next step, we are going to block the Fishman Island and win the Sun Sap. On Roger's side, we let Garp chase after. It's not the best of both worlds. Ha ha. Huang Fa is the happiest one among them. It's no wonder that he is so excited, but the deterrence Lu Yun gave him before is too big. He had already fought with the determination to die before, but the Lu Yun he faced was so powerful that he couldn't even touch it. Thinking of this, there is a little more admiration in the look facing the curly hair. This was what they hadn't expected for a long time. Lu Yun actually died in the hands of the curly-haired old man. Chapter 228. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. This is really an unexpected gain. Then Lu Yun's corpse, we are hanging in front of the marine government to show everyone the strength of our 5 elders, and it can be considered revenge for the brother who died in Lu Yun's hands before. The old man vertical was full of joy in his words, and he paused slightly. Lu Yun's subordinates also seemed to be very capable. We might as well use this to kill him all at once. Excellent. The proposal of the vertical old man was approved by the crowd. Just when they thought that all their merits were fulfilled, Lu Yun's fingers, half of their bodies stuck in the wall, trembled slightly invisible. Weak. It's just a word, The 4 old stars haven't paid too much attention. The yellow-haired old man is familiar with Luyun's voice. As soon as this sound is heard, he closes his mouth and smiles. What? Seeing the yellow-haired old man's complexion changed, he was shivering even when he was talking, and the curly-haired old man stepped forward and asked, "Yellow hair, are you happy and confused?" The yellow-haired old man stretched out his finger, and tremblingly pointed at the front 10. Luyun didn't die, he spoke. What did you say? Did you get dazzled by joy? None of us heard Luyun's corpse talking. The yellow-haired old man and the vertical old man looked at each other, and deliberately bit the word, corpse. The yellow-haired old man comforted himself. When it was time for him to dispel his fear, Qin Luo let out a penetrating laugh in the direction he was lying down. Weak. Too weak. Advertisement. The sound came into the ear, accompanied by a bit of coldness, like a piece of thousand-year-old profound ice, making people tremble all over. What? The curly-haired old man cut Luyun with his own hands. He didn't believe him and stepped forward to visit him. No, it's impossible, Luyun is dead. The curly-haired old man turned his head quickly and shouted at the door. Who is pretending to be a ghost? Get out of lousy. Hee, old stuff, keep your eyes open and take a good look. Qin Luo's voice hit the curly-haired old man's heart word by word. The latter became stiff and turned his head in disbelief, as if he heard a terrifying voice. Qin Luo's physical body was fully protected, and lightly walked out of the wall, dropping a piece of rubble. The curly-haired old man just turned his head, and the air of killing with a punch fell on his abdomen. What? Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. A tearing roar penetrated from the lips of the curly-haired old man. Pain. Suddenly, the meteorite fell in the abdomen, and the organs in the abdomen seemed to be put into the cutting machine and crushed. There was an indescribable pain from the lower body to the upper body, and before an instant, the curly-haired old man's complexion was as gray as earth, and his lips were faintly cold. Then, the body of the curly-haired old man quickly turned back and boiled, and hit the wall hard, as strong as its wall was cracked with dense spider cracks. The curly-haired old man could not resist the strong pressure on his abdomen, and he vomited blood. Fall to the ground. Qin Luo's lips curled up with a bloodthirsty smile. From the perspective of a curly-haired old man, Qin Luo's figure is as high and deep as a god. Every step closer to it will kill the curly-haired old man. You, Luyun, aren't you dead? What's going on? Advertisement. The curly-haired old man was so angry, but after all, he couldn't resist the shock in the words, and an air of despair enveloped him. The pupils shrank violently. This flowing cloud. Actually not dead. Why didn't you die? Impossible. Impossible. I killed you myself. How could you still be alive? The curly-haired old man receded steadily, his broad spine knocked on the wall, his face was in awe. Qin Luo narrowed his eyes, and his deep, pool-like eyes seemed to be covered with ice, and there was a sense of solemnity in the bitterness. Should I tell you? Qin Luo said very lightly, as if to say something irrelevant. Old things, your attack just now was weak. It's so weak that you can't bear to look directly at it. Qin Luo pinched the curly-haired old man's chin with one hand. The latter lost his strength and was easily lifted in the air by Qin Luo. Now that the game is over, tell me, how do you want to die? Qin Luo tilted his head. Even with a layer of mask, the curly-haired old man could feel the murderous look on his face. His tone was a little flustered. Luyun, no, not Luyunshan. This matter is just a misunderstanding. The old man with curly hair originally wanted to explain, but Qin Luo didn't wait until he was finished, and his mouth increased a bit. Misunderstanding. Huh, hang Ryun's body on the marine government, is that what you meant? Qin Luo's palm gradually tightened. The curly-haired old man was like an enemy, but his throat was hoarse and couldn't say a word, so he struggled and waved his arms, his complexion turned into a pig liver color. Luyun, I mean, hang our bodies in front of the marine government. It's us. How can we beat your mind? You got it wrong. The vertical old man looked shocked. He doesn't know how powerful Luyun is. I thought it really made curly hair pick up a piece of shit, but I didn't expect that everything was Luyun playing cat and mouse with them. As if afraid that Qin Luo would not believe them, the vertical Huke immediately swears. Vertical Huke swears to the sky. Luyun, we are all half-footed people, so naturally we have to consider our future. In order to survive, he did not hesitate to use his posthumous glory as a mainstay. Qin Luo narrowed his eyes, his lips filled with irony. Advertisement. Then you don't have to wait for you to be well in 100 years, I will send you to the soil now. As the voice fell, Qin Luo increased his palm, and the curly-haired old man's complexion instantly became bloodshot, like a fish only out of the water, about to die under Luyun's palm. What do you want? We 730 satisfy you. The curly-haired old man squeezed out a few words from his throat with difficulty, and he will return to his arrogance. Now he is like a frustrated doll, as long as Qin Luo is light. With a slight effort, his life will be wiped out. Hey, just waiting for your words. Qin Luo smiled at the corner of his mouth, and quickly loosened the strength of his palm. The curly-haired old man was breathing hard as if he was reborn. I want you to call out the devil fruit tree. Qin Luo's words are not shocking, his voice is as pale as water, but the faces of the few people in front of him are already horrified. You want the devil fruit tree? No. With your eyes closed, you can guess what Luyun will do when he gets the devil fruit tree. Naturally, the remaining few elders would not allow it. Old thing, do you think I am negotiating with you? Qin Luo's tone became cold, and the temperature around him instantly turned cooler. It was a chill that hit people's hearts and made people fear from the bottom of their hearts. The four old men looked at each other. Now, Lu Yun's strength is in front of them. If they don't agree, they will only die here. If they agree, they may get a chance. Several elders looked at each other and seemed to have made up their minds. The curly-haired elders took the lead and said, this. His face condensed, and he thought of other things. How did you kill the old sword-wielding man? Chapter 229. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. The other old men's expressions condensed following his words. They all want to know how Luyun killed the sword. After all, no matter how strong Luyun is, they also have a big kill. No one can touch their kills. This alone is enough to make Luyun drink a pot. But the death of the old man with a sword undoubtedly sounded the alarm for them. The man in front of you is really dangerous. It has reached the point where it can hurt their lives. Several elders live forever and live well, and for the first time they hang their own lives and fight with others. Can you not be afraid? Oh, do you really want to know? Qin Luo's thin lips lightly opened, with a little bit of coconut in the words. It's all about your ass. The old men's complexion condensed, but they didn't dare to offend Luyun. They were about to persuade each other, but Qin Luo in front of him had already run out of patience. I say you, old things, be honest, even if you know it, I can't move my food compared to your strength. Having said that, Qin Luo didn't have the interest to consume it anymore. I want 4 of you. Get the devil fruit tree out within a day, otherwise, the old sword with the sword will be your fate. Qin Luo said this with a bit of haughty. The old men in front of them all shrank their necks, their yellow hair was even worse, and their voice trembled. But what, harp? Qin Luo roared. Even if we work together, the devil fruit tree takes 3 days. If you want us to be presented to you within a day, then you might as well kill us with a single sword. Even if we are dead, we can't do it in 1 day. Within. The vertical old man stepped forward at the right time, a bit harder in his words. Do you really think I dare not move you? Qin Luo narrowed his eyes. I want the devil fruit tree, but I want to play, but now it seems more interesting to kill some of your old things. The face of the vertical old man became stiff, and he was as pale as earth for a while. Luyun, it's not that we don't do it, but this devil fruit tree is really. What is it? You old men don't want to tell me that the journey is difficult, so I want to change my request. Qin Luo asked calmly, his tone revealing danger. The yellow-haired old man didn't dare to nod his head, so he had to show embarrassment. It's just that we are really intent and powerless about this. After all, this devil fruit tree. The old man with yellow hair didn't finish speaking. Qin Luo interrupted him with a big wave. Then I will give you 3 days. If the 3 days pass, I can't see anything. The remaining 4 of you are the 4 with swords. A stand-in, do you understand what I mean? Understand. The yellow-haired old man nodded, his body trembling slightly. Qin Luo narrowed his eyes, and languidly glanced at the person in front of him. The yellow-haired old man, the curly-haired old man, and the vertical elder man were naturally submissive. The bald old man's eyes met Qin Luo's gaze, and there was nothing to say. Seeing that there is no practical progress any longer, Qin Luo yawned lazily. I won't play with you old things. I will pick up things in 3 days. If you don't, you can figure it out by yourself. Qin Luo walked out of the holy ground a few steps, and quickly escaped into the sea. Several old men looked at each other when they saw it, and their bodies couldn't stop shaking. Above the holy land, this growth sigh echoed for a long time. Advertisement. On the other side, Qin Luo jumped out of the holy ground into the water, and immediately used the fusion wanshui skill. The surrounding water flowed desperately. Naturally, what a few old men said on the back was naturally unknown, and he didn't bother to care. When the time was almost right, Qin Luo stepped ashore, only to find that he had stepped into the realm of the Devil's Spinnaker. Seeing everything familiar before him, Qin Luo quickly filtered in his mind. Everything originally here, in the original setting, should be under the control of Gecko Moria, one of Shichibukai. Gecko Moria is a capable person of shadow fruit, with a sharpened head and a plump belly, like a nocturnal bat. Qin Luo remembered, stepping into it quickly. The Devil's Spinnaker in the original book is a place where there is very little sunlight. What Gecko Moria is good at is stealing people's shadows and re-injecting other people's shadows into the corpse. The corpse will be full of vitality, even it is with the character of the shadow before his death. On the other hand, the people who have been robbed of their shadows will never appear in the sun forever, otherwise, they will be turned into grass in an instant. However, Qin Luo naturally didn't care about this. With the system as a big killer, his body completely restrained Gecko Moria's ability at full level. However, I rarely heard about the Gecko Moria incident on the Grand Line. I think he was not enough at that time, and he was roughly at the level of a rookie. As Qin Luo thought, he walked inward, and the more he walked in, the more the cold inside would be forced into people's hearts. If he were an ordinary person, his body would tremble uncontrollably when he walked deep into it. The branches in front of me were layered layer by layer, and as I walked in, the cold wind shook the branches and let out a long sigh, like howling a wolf and howling like a lonely wild ghost. Ah! Ah! Two sharp sounds struck Qin Luo's ears. The latter's brows condensed, and his heavy arms waved wantonly. The giant tree in front of him would leave a fist mark. Qin Luo used less than one strength. Yes, but the giant tree in front of you can keep standing and only damage one corner, which is considered a solid foundation. As Qin Luo thought, his footsteps staggered on the ground, and the woods became extraordinarily quiet. Every time he took a step forward, it seemed that someone called Qin Luo enthusiastically from the depths. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. Qin Luo raised his brows very high. Who is pretending to be a ghost? I saw a huge figure in the woods. Every time the footsteps moved, it would make a violent rubbing sound. His lips roared, his body was full of green juice, and it dragged thickly on the ground. Kill! Kill! The monster's figure flashed, and it quickly reached behind Qin Luo, raised his slender arm to hit it, and drove the swish palm wind, but it collapsed at the moment it was attached to Qin Luo's skin. It's just his own strength, and Qin Luo's physical protection is too powerful. One arm of the monster was broken, naturally showing fear. The light in Qin Luo's eyes resembled an ice cellar, and the corners of his mouth had a vicious smile. Every step closer, the monster in front of him curled up and curled back. Who to kill? Qin Luo could guess that this is roughly what Gecko Moria meant, but he didn't expect that Gecko Moria was so short-eyed, so he came to die first. Qin Luo's face sank. Lead the way. He ordered. The monster was stunned by his cold tone, shaking and moving, thinking about the depths of the forest and going. There was a lot of fog ahead, but it was extremely difficult to tell the road. I advise you, be honest, don't make tricks. Advertisement. 230th. Gecko Moria played. 1/3. Guicho subscribe. Roar. Roar. As he walked in, the monster's voice became faint. Qin Luo narrowed his eyes, and from the depths a sense of pressure filled with chill came from the depths. The breath on his body stood up bitterly to prevent it from popping out at any time. Some monsters. Roar. With a long roar, a short-haired animal slowly walked out from behind the giant tree, and its huge claws stepped on the branches on the ground, making a squeaking sound, accompanied by the cool breeze, which was quite gloomy. The taste of. I saw that there were 3 reveals, the fangs in his mouth were glowing, and his body was huge. Every time he approached one, Qin Luo felt a strong pressure. That's right, it is Hellhound. In the original book, the power of the Hellhound should be far from enough, but I didn't expect that at such a distant moment, the pressure of this Hellhound would be even faster than Marine Admiral. Oh, people are really inferior to dogs. Even 5 elders won't make Qin Luo feel that it's rare. A hellhound in the latter's eyes, but with a bit of unusual coercion, Qin Luo instinctively feels that this hellhound's background is not small. There was a faint smell of danger, but he didn't say much in the end, with a slight smile on his mouth. Roar. The hellhound gave a long roar, and the corners of his mouth 490 shed long saliva. The hair on his body stood up like an irritated beast, and his claws kept moving forward. Every time he stepped down, the ground would sink deeply. I didn't provoke you. Qin Luo smiled at the corner of his mouth, but was not afraid. He had already maximized his physical body at full level. Although this hellhound was aggressive, he was definitely not his opponent. In just a moment, the hell dog rushed towards Qin Luo's head, a pair of sharp claws glowing cold under the gloomy sky. Qin Luo easily tilted his head to avoid, the former rushed into the air and caught the huge boulder behind him. In a moment, like a huge boulder as tall as a person, it shattered into powder. I really can't underestimate you. Qin Luo smiled even more. After his body flashed to the hellhound, he raised his foot and kicked his back, but Qin Luo did not expect that the hellhound at this time was better than he understood. Much stronger. In just a few seconds, the hellhound flashed and rushed behind Qin Luo. It was expected that it would rush from behind. Qin Luo leaned back, but his shoulders fell in the shade. Lifting his eyes, the hellhound was flying into the air. The hell dog drooped down vigorously, and Qin Luo's body was able to dodge the attack. The hard ground smashed into a big hole under the hell dog's sharp attack, and the spider cracks densely expanded outward. Woo! As if it had sensed something, one of the heads of the hellhound opened his eyes sharply, his mouth gurgled and steamed out, and it became even more fierce when facing Qin Luo. Its sharp claws scratched the soil on the ground, and its eyes became red, as if stained with red blood. After another long roar, it rushed towards Qin Luo with the momentum of thunder. The game is over. Qin Luo has already lost patience. It has to be said that the hellhound will be more aggressive than the enemies it has dealt with before, but after all, it is a brainless creature. Although it moves sharply, it does not know the skills at all. In these few seconds, Qin Luo has figured out a way to fight it. Although head-on can easily be solved, it is still a powerful character. He does not have the desire to stop him now. Thinking of this, Qin Luo's figure moved quickly, leaving behind a trail of shadows. Even though the hellhound had 3 heads, it was difficult to capture Qin Luo's figure. Its 3 heads buzzed with Qin Luo's fast movements. Advertisement. When the time came, Qin Luo deliberately slowed down. Sure enough, the hellhound swooped forward when he saw it, but Qin Luo in front of him flickered. The former plunged into the huge ancient tree, dented a deep hole, and penetrated the trunk of the tree. Qin Luo looked at him flawlessly from the other side of the tree. The hell dog groaned and called. The dog's face quickly flushed, looking completely uncomfortable, and there were halal sheds in his mouth. Fighting with people depends on your brain, not brute force. Qin Luo said with a good temper. Seeing the dog in front of him humming, he raised his strong arm and shattered the whole old tree. And the hellhound, with the palm of Qin Luo, freed from the grip of the ancient tree. It's just that Qin Luo's random palm is something it can bear. Hellhound lay on the ground and went into a coma. Jia haha, who am I, who has the courage to come to my site, fight with my dog, and break my tree? A gloomy voice came from the depths of the forest, with an ice-like tone, hoarse and rough. Qin Luo roughly guessed who it was, but didn't break it, and the corner of his mouth also had a seemingly non-existent smile. Who am I? He just said, without saying more. I didn't expect that the dignified Luyun would know me, it's really disrespectful. Gecko Moria walked out of the forest, his plump body trembling with every step he took, his head was thin and dark, and his white teeth were exposed, adding a bit of gloom. Qin Luo didn't answer his words, his eyes were full of contempt. However, I did not say hello to my devil's spinnaker. You are the first and the last. Gecko Moria's voice suddenly dropped, the pressure on his body was exuding as much as he could, and his lips curled up with a scornful smile. His entire body was finally exposed in front of Qin Luo's eyes, the latter narrowed his eyes, and his blood-colored robe moved with the wind. You are weaker than I thought. Wei paused. Well, you are a scumbag after all. Sure enough, Gecko Moria's face turned black inch by inch in his words. Luyun, don't think that the idiots of the Fishman Island treat you as gods. Everyone has to give you some points. I think you are just a scumbag. You dare to be so arrogant when you come to my place. Gecko Moria's complexion is a bit hideous. Lousy is going to kill you here today. Your head is worth a lot of money. I killed you and successfully made it to Shichibukai, and what should I do? He seemed to be thinking about this issue very seriously, and paused. It's better to take your shadow, and then use your shadow to take the Fishman Island, haha. Gecko Moria was very satisfied with his plan. On the other hand, Qin Luo had a calm face and a sarcastically smile at the corner of his mouth. Do you think it was your trick that moved me a bit? Gecko Moria's expression changed. Qin Luo, I advise you not to be too complacent. There are not a few people who come to my devil's spinnaker, but few can go out as they did when they came. There is something in Gecko Moria's words. Qin Luo has a heaven-defying bug memory, and instantly understood what he said. Oh. Do you want to use your weak power to take away my shadow? Pause slightly. His smile is even more ironic. Why don't you give it a try? However, I would rather see you looking slumped when you can't get your hands off. It must be very stupid. Chapter 230. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Gecko Moria's complexion darkened a bit. You better know what you are talking about. I bet you will die miserably. Gecko Moria squeezed this sentence from the gap between his teeth. He was still a bit afraid of Luyun. After all, Luyun's reputation was so big in the Fishmen Island. But Gecko Moria is ignorant after all. He naively thought that the name of God of Flowing Clouds was picked up by mistake in the Fishmen Island. After all, for now, people who can achieve this level have not been attracted by the government. Extremely unscientific. Oh, wait and see. Qin Luo smiled at the corner of his mouth, and suddenly an idea popped in his mind, so he suppressed the pressure on himself to the lowest level, and then displayed it on Gecko Moria. The latter felt the pressure from Qin Luo, thinking it was Qin Luo's overall strength, and Gecko Moria's smile seemed to have a chance to win. Oh, I thought it was a big deal, even though the momentum on his body made him creepy, but from this point of view, the flow of clouds was only limited to this extent. Gecko Moria had already thought of the scene of using the shadow of flowing clouds to rule Mermaid Island in the future, and her lips unconsciously overflowed with a lascivious smile. Shadow Revolution. Gecko Moria suddenly roared, and the shadow on the ground quickly condensed, making his fat body even bigger. Interesting. Qin Luo narrowed his eyes, and Gecko Moria in front of him quickly came towards him, and the big punch greeted Qin Luo's belly. Qin Luo counterattacked with one hand, pinching his arm with half a layer of force, and twisting it with force. The entity in his palm turned into a dark shadow and merged into the ground. Advertisement. Jia ha ha, you can't hurt me. Gecko Moria mocked. I am a person with the ability of shadow fruit, you can't touch my entity. Qin Luo greeted him with a punch extremely slowly, but slammed into the air. The palm of his palm was full of pitch black shadows, flowing down the fingers to the ground. Gecko Moria poked his head out of the ground. The shadow double is powerful, Jia Jia. He laughed strangely, his purple lips lined him even more weird. Luyun, you are just a rubbish, I will leave it to me today. It is your honor to decide you. Gecko Moria taunted Qin Luo while secretly manipulating her fingers on the other side. If you look carefully, it is not difficult to find that Qin Luo has a few inches of slowly moving shadows under his feet, completely covering his shadow, and then gradually appearing in the shape of a fist. The battle has just begun. What are you smug about? Qin Luo sneered, looking indifferent, and the shadow behind him had changed from the size of a fist to a thick tree trunk, aiming at him. You're such an idiot. Gecko Moria bewitched him and manipulated the shadow secretly. This idiot didn't even know his ambush. It's just that he didn't see. Qin Luo's handsome face looked like the corners of his lips were slightly hooked under the mask. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. Bang. With a burst of sound after a while, Qin Luo's midfielder was hit hard by Gecko Moria's shadow entity. Jihaha. Luyun, my shadow mage is pretty powerful, right? Gecko Moria smiled a little arrogantly, he didn't expect that Luyun would be so easy to deal with. Puff. Qin Luo's extremely coordinated body bowed, as if suffering a great internal injury, his entire face was lying in the dark. How about it? If you call Grandpa lousy 3 times, you will be killed. Advertisement. Gecko Moria has been stunned by the victory, with his hands akimbo the size. Qin Luo's thin lips hooked, and he shot back with interest. It's just a punch, how good I am when you are. Be careful, you will die. In Gecko Moria's ears, Qin Luo's words had already become a dead duck before his death. When he thought that he was about to kill a man of the world, he was a little bit more interested. Okay, I will let you see the full strength of the shadow. Gecko Moria snapped his fingers. Shadow Mage. As soon as the voice fell, a pair of dark hands appeared on the ground, and they held Qin Luo's ankles tightly. You. Despicable. How dare you control my actions? Qin Luo pretended to be anxious, shouting angrily, but the handsome face under the mask was frosty. Jihaha. I just want you to be unable to move. What does it feel like waiting to be beaten? Gecko Moria laughed a few times, and the shadow on the ground moved quickly, appearing behind Qin Luo in a flash. Shadow stand in. With a rough shout, Gecko Moria replaced Qin Luo with his fists and punched him hard on the back of his head. Zero seeking flowers. Flying bats. It was another rough drink, and the shadows on the thick trees overflowed the entity, turning into pitch black bats, surrounding Qin Luo attacking it. Jia ha ha ha, how? Are you satisfied with the cute little bats? Yes, very interesting strength. Qin Luo's lips were cold, Gecko Moria sneered, evacuated all the shadow bats, and walked to Qin Luo. Advertisement. I have been arrested and pretended to be forced. Luyun, use your identity to ask the people of the Fishman Island to submit to me. I will consider letting you go. Gecko Moria's face became cold. Otherwise, I will make your shadow a zombie. His smile is a bit cruel. Qin Luo knows his useful tricks, and he doesn't explain it. If I cooperate, won't you do it? GG. Of course, lied to you. I want you to lose your shadow and live in the dark forever without seeing the sun. This is the end of trespassing on my territory. Gecko Moria exaggerated, and a slender face drew close to Qin Luo's eyes. Shadow Fruit Ability. People who are deprived of shadow can never act in the sun, otherwise they will be wiped out. Qin Luo briefly explained the effect of this skill. Well, yes, I don't think you know a little bit about this uncle. GG, should Lousy consider making your death easier. Gecko Moria felt unprecedented satisfaction. It's really damn happy. Qin Luo said these words deliberately. Jia ha ha. Gecko Moria smiled madly. Then start with your shadow and make your shadow a zombie. Maybe it will be my biggest doll. Isn't it an honor? As Gecko Moria said, his legs and feet quickly approached Luo, while the rough big hands gradually approached Qin Luo's shadow. Although Qin Luo was so fragile that he was a little disappointed, Luyun is considered to be the strongest shadow he has encountered so far. If you can use it for yourself, not to mention the number one in the world, it is absolutely no problem to be invincible. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but rubbed his palms with excitement. Only after a while, Gecko Moria's complexion froze like a fly, and there were a few unbelievable and even shocked eyes in his eyes. Chapter 231. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. How could? Gecko Moria took a few steps back in disbelief and turned pale. Why? Don't you want to do something to my shadow? Don't you dare to do it. Qin Luo's slightly evil voice came from behind Gecko Moria. He didn't have any tone at this time, but he heard it in the latter's ears. Satan-like existence. You. Gecko Moria was a little trembling when she said, you were pretending to be vulnerable before. You were pretending to be a pig and eating a tiger. Your true strength is concealed. No. Qin Luo shook his index finger and easily broke free of the restraint of his ankle, while Gecko Moria stepped back, staring directly at him with horror. Gecko Moria, I'm just curious, how can your confidence kill me? Qin Luo approached him step by step, and Gecko Moria's face turned pale. Now, it's time for me to act. As soon as Qin Luo's voice fell, his fist fell on Gecko Moria's soft abdomen. The latter's belly contracted slightly. Qin Luo's technique was so fast that he hadn't had time to use the shadow double. Gecko Moria was like being hit by a sea train in his abdomen. He rolled back all the way in a circular motion, hitting a thick old tree root, and was shocked by Qin Luo's powerful surplus to be embedded in the root of the tree. Cough cough. Gecko Moria vomited blood. Luyun's punch was making people feel scared, his internal organs seemed to be shattered, and there seemed to be a blender in his stomach that was stirring wantonly and was fat. The body trembled slightly. So strong. Gecko Moria panted roughly, his lips lifted, and finally just squeezed out these two words. But, Wei paused, do you think I only have what abilities you see? Advertisement. He burst into tears of laughter, his eyebrows were stained with madness, and he got up behind him laboriously. Every word he said seemed to have taken a lot of effort. Shadow Fruit's ability is not something people like you are qualified to understand. After Gecko Moria finished speaking, the surrounding aura suddenly cooled down, countless black shadows moved to Qin Luo's feet, and gradually climbed up a huge black cage, trapping it inside. Shadow box. Gecko Moria gave a rough scream, and red blood came out of the corner of his mouth. Hey, little trick. Qin Luo didn't have any interest in head-to-head and broke free. With a sarcasm at the corner of his mouth, he immediately shouted, the flesh is at full level. I saw his body grow upwards like a giant tree, and its growth speed is already beyond the speed of the naked eye. Upon seeing this, Gecko Moria gritted his teeth and increased the intensity of the shadow box. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. The two struggled hard. Qin Luo's height continued to rise, and Gecko Moria's shadow box continued to rise. Qin Luo understands his tricks and wants to keep spending it like this with himself, but how can he ask him to get what he wants? Feeling that Qin Luo in the shadow box no longer grows wanton, Gecko Moria thinks that he has reached the limit, regaining a glimmer of hope. Jia, how capable I am when you use the true style. The power of the shadow fruit is not that you are qualified to look down on it. Gecko Moria made a piercing grin a second before, and the smile that came after a moment gradually solidified on his face. What happened? Advertisement. I saw Qin Luo's body began to expand quickly to both sides. Because Gecko Moria's shadow box was raised too high, it couldn't loosely accommodate Qin Luo's horizontally developing body. Gecko Moria's complexion changed, and Qin Luo's body was still expanding outwards in a visible trend. After a moment, bang! With a crit-like roar, Gecko Moria's huge shadow box was destroyed under Qin Luo's arm. The loud noise pierced the skies of the Devil's Spinnaker. No. Impossible. Impossible. Gecko Moria roared hysterically. On the other hand, Qin Luo's huge body returned to normal size within a few seconds. All this is due to the skill of the physical body full level. Jia ha ha ha. Gecko Moria was a little close to madness. No, Rain, oh no, do you think this will defeat me? I want you to see now, what is real strength. Along with his roar, there was a violent sensation in the castle behind the woods. Come out, Oz. I saw a tremor on the ground of the Devil's Spinnaker, and there seemed to be a huge monster coming towards this side. Qin Luo's thick eyebrows gathered, and he had already guessed who it would be. The huge figure of the visitor stood proudly on the ground, and the height seemed to be close to the entire sky. Naturally, Qin Luo is no stranger to this giant. Demon berserker from the giant race. The size is huge, it can be compared with the giant castle. The strength is quite ruthless, and it can destroy half of the island. But this one in front of me is a defective product. The real Oz has died hundreds of years ago, frozen by frost. Advertisement. What is active now is nothing more than a puppet zombie resurrected by Gecko Moria from the shadow. At the same time Qin Luo was thinking about it slowly, the giant Oz in front of him had already begun a devastating action. The huge towering old tree was destroyed like grass at his feet. The biggest advantage of zombies is that they don't feel pain. With such a powerful destructive power, it is no wonder that Gecko Moria refused to release him before. GG, Luyun, Lousy has given you enough face and forced me to use Oz. Your death day is here. Waiting to die. Gecko Moria roared, facing Oz's direction. Oz. Kill this man for me. How embarrassed. Oz acts like a string puppet, with stiff hands and feet. Qin Luo has a good impression of the giants. Facing the huge Oz, he does not mean to underestimate the enemy. Ah! Oz made a long cry, and his stout fist greeted Qin Luo instantly. The latter reacted quickly and quickly left the ground that Oz was aiming at. The originally flat, hard ground was smashed out by Oz with such a light punch. A large 4.8 pit of tens of meters. Not only that, but Oz's ruthless strength also affected the surrounding land that was intact. The huge coercion is expanding outward with the momentum of thunder. Gecko Moria was naturally satisfied with Oz's ability, and Jia gave out a weird smile. Yes. That's it. After killing him, I will inject his shadow into your body. At that time, your strength will increase. Upper Luyun's skills. We are invincible in the world. Ha ha ha. Gecko Moria's idea is not bad. It's just that facing the existence of a powerful enemy like Qin Luo, all his good prospects will be lost. But at the very least, he has no idea what the future is waiting for him at this time. And Qin Luo, who happened to be tired of fun, a grim smile came up at the corner of his mouth. You dare to show up even if you are so vulnerable. Has no one taught you to hide your shortcomings? Chapter 232. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Roar. Oz let out a long, mournful roar, gasping out of his mouth. Oh! Another voice came from the ground. Qin Luo turned his head, the hell dog's huge body stretched out in front of him. After the hellhound barked, he walked to Qin Luo's feet, and seemed to go around in a circle to please. Qin Luo gave a low laugh, with a slight smile at the corner of his mouth. Hellhound. Why did you get to him? Gecko Moria twisted his eyes and saw the hellhound's rebellion. Although he was curious, he was not too irritated. Huh, it's just trash. You still have to work with trash. Qin Luo was a little surprised when he heard Gecko Moria say this. Gecko Moria actually said that the hellhound is rubbish, but in Qin Luo's eyes, the hellhound's strength will be faster than Gecko Moria's. For a while, he was a little bit dumbfounded, but he did not rule out the possibility that the hellhound had hidden strength, or even the hellhound didn't know how much power was hidden in his body. Thinking of this, Qin Luo's mouth evokes a malicious smile. I don't know what Gecko Moria's expression will be when he learns that the trash he keeps talking about is stronger than himself. 10. Oz, come on, solve them both. I'll give you a large capacity shadow. Gecko Moria snorted. Oz, who was as big as a hill, rushed towards Qin Luo when he heard the words. Advertisement. Qin Luo's body flashed, and his deep eyes were full of disdain. Full body level. He leapt high in the air, stepping under his feet to reach Oz's huge back, and the power in his fist gradually accumulated, but in a flash, the original normal-sized fist became the size of a giant tree. Bang! A cloud of mushrooms rose up, and Qin Luo's blow was not unbelievable, and he used 2 levels of strength with this punch. If you change to the armed admiral, which is more trash, I am afraid that the abdomen will burst in an instant. On the other hand, Oz only retreated most of his feet quickly, and his fat body was able to stand upright even after passing Qin Luo's palm. I have to say that there were indeed 2 strokes. The trickier thing is, at this moment, Oz is just a puppet. Although his abdomen is already showing signs of breaking under Qin Luo's violent palm, it is unconfirmed that Oz at this moment is still immune to pain, and he picks up his steps to Qin Luo again. Strike. Qin Luo's complexion condensed, and he flew forward again without hesitation, this time with a punch that was even more tricky than the last punch, aimed at Oz's chest, and attacked like a blast. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. With only a rough tearing sound, Qin Luo saw that the strength was about the same, and smiled at the corner of his mouth. You are nothing but that. But before he could say anything, Oz slapped him in front of him with a slap. Fortunately, Qin Luo reacted quickly enough to avoid a swift blow. Woo! Hellhound also seemed to have noticed something wrong and roared violently underneath. Jia Jia, Oz will not fail. The giants have a strong physique, and the zombies give him the characteristic of not afraid of pain. In this way, Gecko Moria seems to be deliberately trying to whet everyone's appetite. Luyun, if you are now number of people, I can still consider giving you a precise coffin. Advertisement. Qin Luo was full of disdain when he heard this. If this Oz is put in the hands of other people, it is estimated that he will be able to wear it for a long time. Even if he is lucky enough to be wiped out, he will not escape the exhaustion afterwards. After all, there is a Gecko Moria in this battle stand idly by. But how can Qin Luo be an ordinary person? Qin Luo's mouth was hooked with a weird smile, and his fists increased rapidly, becoming the size of a house beam. Jia Jia, I said that no matter how many shots you hit, Oz will stand up intact. Unless you have the ability to kill him with a punch, it's just Luyun, this is probably very difficult for you, haha. Quote. Gecko Moria has been dazzled by joy, and has not seen the ironic smile on Qin Luo's lips at all. It's a pity, your opponent is me. Qin Luo's voice fell, and his figure was like a swift lightning, standing on Oz's head, his fist rapidly growing, and finally hovering on Qin Luo's head like a hammer. Suddenly, it will land down. The physical body is at full level. Qin Luo slowly uttered 4 words between his lips. Then, an incomparable coercion gradually condensed from the top of Oz's head. And Oz's huge head, because of the huge force, the entire spine remained rigid. Click. With a crisp sound, Oz's spine split from top to bottom with a violent force. His fat body stood still in place as if struck by lightning. Oz is dead. Do not. Advertisement. After a long period of silence, Gecko Moria let out a tearing roar, her narrow eyes staring at the size of an almond. Impossible. Oz is not going to die. Gecko Moria swiftly tried Oz's footsteps. The huge body was no longer moving. The former's footsteps became stiff, and it seemed that it was difficult to accept this fact. Stretched together. Wow. Gecko Moria's movements were pulled back by the Hellhound. The Hellhound seemed to be determined to help Qin Luo. A big mouth bit Gecko Moria's ankle, his face was impatient, and his forehead was fierce. Guang. Get out of the way, assholes. Hellhound Shu received a punch from Qin Luo before and left a great injury. After being kicked away by Gecko Moria, he lay on the ground with a whimper. Oz's huge body was gradually torn apart, and black shadows continued to emerge from it. Gecko Moria was panicked, pinched the fleeing shadow with his big hands, and stuffed it into Oz's body, but Oz's wound was really huge. Even if Gecko Moria did more, it was in vain. Luyun, I'm going to kill you. Gecko Moria's eyes were dyed red, like an angry lion, and the wind on the soles of his feet approached Qin Luo, who drew away lightly, pinching his neckline. Picking up Gecko Moria. With your tricks, it's really not enough. Qin Luo almost looked at him through his nostrils. Gecko Moria hated him. His teeth were itchy, his forehead was exposed, and his body was trembling slightly. I want to kill you. I want to kill you. Qin Luo immediately laughed and threw it on the ground. Okay, I want to see, what other tricks do you have? Gecko Moria trembled slightly, her lips moved, and she kept repeating the words just now. I want to kill you, I want to kill you. Luyun. Either you die or I die today. Qin Luo narrowed his eyes. Come then. It is understandable that Gecko Moria is so exciting. After all, Oz is his greatest weapon. Now it was killed by Qin Luo, like a treasure that has been kept for many years, being thrown on the ground at will. Chapter 233. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Oh, if you have any other tricks, just use them all. I want to see what other tricks you crappy Moria have. Qin Luo's mouth evokes an ironic smile, while Gecko Moria faces him. On the contrary, Luyan's sarcasm calmed down a bit. Hee, you will die miserably. Gecko Moria just spit out these words lightly, and the shadow under him frantically surged towards the bottom of his corner, as if steaming a thick liquid, gurgling out sound. Oh, Qin Luo's long, narrow eyes narrowed slightly, watching his subsequent moves flawlessly. I saw thick shadows on the soles of Gecko Moria's feet converging upwards, tightly wrapping around his ankles, and immediately, the shadows spread upwards quickly, eating away at Gecko Moria's body. Wow! The hellhound lying on the ground whimpered slightly, and Oz's corpse on the other side was distorted in a strange posture. With such a permeating picture, the shadows of Alcephalus sylvestris on the ground gradually converged. This is my biggest killer, Ryayun. My Gecko Moria has survived so long, and there has never been anyone who can force me to use this trick. Wei paused. But don't worry, you can force me too. At this point, how am I willing to let you die easily? Jihaha. The scattered shadows gradually condensed, forming a huge vortex on the soles of Gecko Moria's feet. His originally plump body became thicker under the entanglement of the shadows. At the same time, deep in the forest of the Devil's Spinnaker. Here is a display of the people Gecko Moria has suffered in these years. He tried his best to collect so many corpses, and then inject the shadows of others into it. The zombie man, who had been emotionally upset because of Qin Luo's arrival, gradually lost his look in Gecko Moria's distant laughter. Advertisement. The hollow eyes were a little darker, and then gradually turned white. It really smelled like a corpse. A black object slowly crawled out of the souls of these zombies. When all the corpses in this area crawled out of pitch-black shadows, those shadows seemed to be alive, converging in a distant direction. And the direction they converged was the direction where Gecko Moria and Qin Luo fought. Jia. Gecko Moria smiled arrogantly, and his plump shoulders trembled violently. Shadow collection. There was a taste of bloodthirsty in his words, and shadows from all directions continued to converge towards him. After a while, even Qin Luo felt incredible. Compared with the previous ones, the pressure on Gecko Moria was actually a little bit stronger. The taste of oppression. Although these pressures are still not enough in Qin Luo's eyes, what Qin Luo can feel is that Gecko Moria's abilities are slowly increasing, and that increasingly powerful sense of threat also exploded several times in an instant. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. Qin Luo twisted his eyes, and the smile on the corner of his mouth gradually became cold. I didn't expect you to hide such tricks as a trash. He finished speaking lightly, moving quickly, like a nimble bat, flying above Gecko Moria's head, and then landing in an instant. The force of his feet resembled a heavy stone hammer, squeezing Gecko Moria's head. Almost deformed. Jia. Gecko Moria didn't rush, but squeezed a laugh from between his teeth. Qin Luo's kick was like a thunder, and after Gecko Moria's weird smile, he added a bit of strength. Even if Marine Admiral suffers this trick from him, he is afraid that he will die soon. Sure enough, Gecko Moria's slender head looked like a huge rolling disc, and was deeply trapped by Qin Luo's fatal blow. Jia. Cough, it is so powerful. Gecko Moria wanted to laugh, but a bloody scent surged in his throat, making him even the second half of the sentence with a little vibrato. Advertisement. On the other hand, Qin Luo's brows were twisted tightly. This originally seemed to be a powerful situation for Qin Luo, but the mystery is that only the two of them know. Although the one used by Qin Luo is not the ultimate move, it can also be a powerful presence in Marine. For example, this move is no less than Oz receiving his punch. If ordinary people tasted it, it would be lucky to be able to leave a scrap. This is the weirdness of this incident. Logically speaking, Oz is a zombie who is not afraid of pain and still said that, but I did not expect this Gecko Moria to be so resistant to beatings, but it really refreshed Qin Luo's cognition. And how would Qin Luo know that Gecko Moria simply covered himself with a shadow, if not, let alone a punch? It is the fist that Qin Luo just issued, and that palm wind can also shake him to death. But despite the protection of the shadow, Gecko Moria was slightly injured, which shows the power of Luyun. While Gecko Moria was still restoring his breath, Qin Luo pulled away again, pinching his legs, and the two long legs stepped firmly on top of Gecko Moria's head. Do you want to try what it feels like to have your head broken? Qin Luo finished speaking, and the soles of his feet were spinning like a clockwork. The expected strong resistance occurred. Qin Luo's toes clamped Gecko Moria's slender head, and then quickly swirled on his shoulders. With a clear click, Qin Luo landed perfectly on the ground. Advertisement. Unexpectedly, you still have two sons. His tone was extremely soft, and he didn't know whether he was complimenting or demeaning. Jia ha ha. A weird laugh was played, and Gecko Moria's body gradually protruded from the ground with a smile on the corner of her mouth. You are not bad, Luyun. Wei done. Would you like to consider cooperating with me? Together, we can definitely recover these stupid people. Qin Luo was unmoved. I'm sorry, I still like to watch you cripple more than you call stupid people. Qin Luo's words successfully angered Gecko Moria, who was furious, and even raised her voice several times. What do you mean? Luyun, you really are toasting and not eating fine wine. What do you think you are? Laozi finds your cooperation as worthy of you. Qin Luo was obviously very calm when facing him. When I say you, I can only brush my tongue. After speaking, a hard slap was thrown on Gecko Moria's face. The latter rolled around a few times and landed on the ground, his cheeks swollen quickly, but his expression looked undaunted. Jia, I said, it's useless, Qin Luo, everything you do to me now can't hurt me a bit. With the protection of the shadow collection, all you can hurt is surrounded by shadows. Fur. Gecko Moria's voice rose a few more degrees. Wait for death. Chapter 234. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Idiot. Qin Luo's voice is neither salty nor weak, but the irony in the words is full. It's the first time I have seen an idiot who tells others all his shortcomings. It's really stupid. Qin Luo's voice is as pale as white water, but as inviolable as a god. How about telling you? Gecko Moria retorted. You think the strongest killer move can't touch me at all. Even if you tell you this, with your strength, you can't even touch me. I said, is it true? Just try it. Qin Luo's figure flashed and appeared on the top of Gecko Moria's head. The huge coercion covered it, and his feet instantly swelled like a huge beast. Drink. With a loud shout, Gecko Moria's body was like a huge spring, squeezed into it deeply. Jia ha ha. I said, you can't hurt me a bit. Gecko Moria laughed, and paused. Huh. He finally changed his expression, and saw that Qin Luo's single foot was like a hammer. Although he was bounced back, the latter still filled his ankle with coercion. I saw Gecko Moria's plump body gradually change shape, her eyes squeezed into a gap. 770 Qin Luo's foot lasted a full minute. When he removed his strength, Gecko Moria sighed like a new life. Advertisement. Qin Luo didn't really show mercy and wanted to let him go, but when dealing with Gecko Moria, he did feel the strong resilience of the shadow. Moreover, he was like a monster in front of him. It will not affect anything. GG, don't you understand now? What a stupid thing. Gecko Moria didn't feel the situation in front of him at all, but Qin Luo's lips gradually stained with a smile. I saw dense cracks appearing on Gecko Moria's chest and back, and this kind of cracks is still concerned about the expansion of the thunder. Although it is as small as a millimeter, it can't hold up the amount. But Gecko Moria did not react at all. He naively thought that he had the indestructible body of King Kong, but he did not expect Qin Luo's kick, which had already overwhelmed his body attack. Even Qin Luo was a little surprised. He didn't expect that things would develop into the present form. Yes, the dense cracks on Gecko Moria's body are precisely because Qin Luo attacked from the head and carried through the force of the whole body. Gecko Moria was squeezed and deformed from the top. The bulky volume of the lower body is naturally self-evident. The strong air pressure inside his skin stretched open, cracking dense stripes. This is relatively rare. Gecko Moria uses shadow to make his body full of resilience. If he changes to an ordinary person, the gaps in his body from the inside to the outside are densely covered with the whole body, and at the same time it is expanding rapidly up and down. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. Only Gecko Moria, who can't feel pain at this time, can do it. Jia. Gecko Moria gave a dry smile. Huh. I finally found something wrong. Ah. With a long scream, he was a little hysterical. You ruined my body. Ah. Luyun. How are you? Gecko Moria's voice was intermittent, and Qin Luo, who was still holding the winning ticket, looked a little solemn when he saw him now. Gecko Moria squeezed a grunting sound from his throat, unable to tell whether he was screaming or rejoicing. Why are you so stupid? He roared, his voice loud as thunder, resounding through the clouds of the devil's jib. Advertisement. Chin Luo's complexion changed. Jia haha, do you think you can beat me by hurting my body? I have to say, you are so naive. Jia. Gecko Moria curled down as if seeing the funniest joke in the world, so, even though the dense lines on his body were still expanding, it didn't affect his crazy smile in the slightest. I saw that his body was like a huge stone statue, and the hellhound underneath made a few weak whispers, then climbed up, bared his teeth at Gecko Moria, and then turned and squeezed into the deep forest. Even that dog knows it. Don't come to provoke me. Jia. After Gecko Moria laughed, his big palm rushed towards Chin Luo, who swiftly flashed away, his eyes fixed on the way the hellhound was leaving, as if thinking of something, the corners of his mouth curled into an ironic smile. Molly Moonlight is flat. Don't rush to shoot, it's not me that you want to deal with. Chin Luo's expression became cold, and after a while, the hellhound ran slowly from the depths of the forest with a heavy bag in his mouth. Luyun, you said that the person who came to deal with me is not this dog, right? Gecko Moria paused and laughed unscrupulously. Are you not having an IQ? He gradually condensed and laughed, thinking that it was Chin Luo's words that made him feel a great humiliation. Chin Luo laughed, and his fists quickly enlarged, and finally restrained Gecko Moria's actions. The hellhound, swift and fierce as lightning, leapt quickly, and loosened the bag in his mouth on the top of Gecko Moria's head. In an instant, white crystal swirled slightly above Gecko Moria's head. What's this? No. The white crystal fell on Gecko Moria's shoulders, the latter's face was as gray as death, and he wanted to escape but couldn't escape Chin Luo's containment. The hellhound brought to deal with Gecko Moria, and it was exactly what he had been afraid of. Salt. Advertisement. Chin Luo smiled between his lips. This hellhound has a human nature, and even things that he didn't even notice were actually done by the hellhound. Gecko Moria, on the other hand, looked like a ghost in the hell, frantically spitting out shadows, and the torn wounds on his body were also densely expanding. Dark shadows pierced through his body. Feeling the loss of the shadow on his body, Gecko Moria wailed, and gradually the pain that he could not feel before swept through him like a heartbreak. Although Chin Luo couldn't experience the pain of Gecko Moria, there were tens of thousands of cracked scars and countless shadows spewing out from them. Thinking about it, it was enough to make a person's scalp numb. Gecko Moria's pouring lasted for half an hour, and the shadows that came out turned into streamers and returned to the previous owner. Those who cannot be exposed to the sun because of Gecko Moria are finally reborn. All this is due to Chin Luo. And hellhound. The sky of the devil's jib was guarded by the clouds and the moon was bright, and the sun gradually shone here, through the shadows of the trees, Madara smeared on the ground. Chin Luo looked at the sky here was as blue as washing, and the hell dog was like a well-behaved child, curled up on the bottom of Chin Luo's feet, and gradually closed his eyes. Chin Luo lowered his body and stroked its head. To die, I didn't expect to be able to cause such a big trouble just through here. Chapter 235. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. After Chin Luo got out of the devil's spinnaker, the sky of the Grand Line was as blue as washes. Chin Luo stepped on the ground of the spinnaker with the hell dog cleverly wrapped around his feet. Chin Luo smiled at the corner of his mouth, and saw the lazy hell dog at his ankles, sobbing in his mouth. He touched its forehead. Now Gecko Moria is no longer there, you can stay in the devil's spinnaker in the future. The hellhound groaned a few times, and just rubbed Chin Luo's ankle flatly. Chin Luo folded his gaze again, revolving heaven, his eyebrows furrowed tightly. What's the matter? Is there an abnormality? Chin Luo whispered softly, his eyes extending along with the distant skyline. The indifferent coercion came from the distance, although it was very light, but how powerful is Chin Luo's perception? Hellhound, you stay here well, I'm going to set off. Chin Luo intuitively felt that something big was happening in the distance, and wanted to go and find out. Hellhound knew that he was leaving, and it was not easy to stop it, but reluctantly made a circle around his feet. Chin Luo dived into the water instantly and used all things in the melt water. The coercion in the distance had a faintly inviolable taste. What's more, he gradually felt that the taste inside was a bit familiar. This is unimaginable for him. But he couldn't tell who it was based on his feelings, so Chin Luo opened up the melt water to the maximum in a moment. The wind swept his ears, and the shallow sealed state created him beside him. Chin Luo felt the delicateness of the sea water gliding by. Under the deep sea, his body is like a jumping sea fairy. How many people know the coercion and coldness in it? When he reached the destination in a blink of an eye, the familiar feeling in his heart grew stronger, Shinluo pressed his lips tightly, and jumped out of the water at a distance of 100 meters. Advertisement. The action was so big that there was a splash of water jumping. Just hearing the sound of a stern sound, it is a fight. At first glance, the characters on both sides are not small. One is Whitebeard, who leads a huge pirate army, and the other is Marine's majestic battleship. Whitebeard's feet were on the deck, and his mouth was grinning contemptuously. On Marine's side, 5 warships fired on Whitebeard. The latter stood tall like a statue. Little ones. Whitebeard roared in a rough voice. Go. Suddenly, Whitebeard was as fast as lightning, pursuing swiftly in front of him, and the gunfire from 5 warships was turned into nothingness under the power of his shock fruit. Damn it! The lieutenant aboard the warship, his mouth curled in an unpleasant arc, and the marine cape fluttered in the wind behind him. Continue to fire them. Lousy doesn't believe it. Our 5 battleships are not as powerful as a pirate group. Lieutenant General Marine screamed, and Marine seemed to be wound up behind him, and the power of shelling the ammunition was even more rapid. Father, what should I do? Some people can't resist it. A member of Whitebeard's sluggish approach walked up to Whitebeard. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. Between the words, Whitebeard flew again and stopped an incoming ammunition for him. Listen, everyone. Counterattack without scruples. We also bombarded back with artillery fire. With an order from Whitebeard, the people present seemed to be beaten up, and they swiftly responded to Marine. But what Whitebeard didn't expect was that Marine's attack this time was well prepared, and a full basket of ammunition was prepared. Although the medicines were not enough to harm Whitebeard, it was just the crew under his hands, but none of him. Ability to be strong. Just in a moment, Marine's ammunition was densely packed, as if covering the entire sky. Even if Whitebeard's skills were strong, he couldn't stop the artillery from all directions. Little ones, do everything possible to save their lives. Advertisement. Whitebeard roared with a rough voice. Now he has anticipated the surprise of the 2 armies and no longer intends to go head on. Now he only hopes that his crew can leave here unharmed. Otherwise, even if you are as famous as him, you will be guilty for a lifetime. Father, don't worry. We fought him. Several captains of the Whitebeard pirate group expressed their opinions one after another. None of them are afraid of things. Marine clearly came here this time. Whitebeard hurt the crew members who were not as effective as theirs. They wanted everyone to retreat quickly, but they had already given their lives to the Whitebeard pirates. Just escaped. The Whitebeard pirates got a title of fleeing, so what's the difference between them and their death? Thinking of this, everyone's eyes were stained with war spirits. Father, we won't run away. One of the tall crew members yelled in Whitebeard's direction. When everyone saw this, they all expressed their opinions. 0 seeking flowers. Neither will we. Father, neither will I. Sworn to the death with the Whitebeard pirates. Listening to the determination of the people in front of him, Whitebeard felt a warmth in his heart. His Whitebeard strength has reached the point where he is now. Although he can't dominate this sea yet, the ordinary pirate group is beyond him. From the moment he went to sea, what was missing in his heart was a family relationship. Now that he sees so many crew members, he will die and coexist with the kingdom he created. How could he not be moved? Advertisement. Okay. Whitebeard roared roughly, with a few tremors in the words, but it was not caused by fear. Since everyone wants to fight the old man here against the group of Marines, then the old man will never let you damage Avella's hair. He shouted, before using his full shock fruit power. The huge vibration was like a monstrous ocean wave, hitting above Marine's warship, causing a strong wave. Is this the real shock fruit's ability? The face of Lieutenant General Marine on the opposite side is no longer as calm as before. After all, he is facing a strong one. If nothing goes wrong, if Whitebeard doesn't get rid of it, there may be a bloody storm on the Grand Line in the future. Thinking of this, Lieutenant General Marine's complexion looked like a piece of white paper. His complexion tightened. No, Whitebeard is already so terrifying now, it must not be kept for later. Lieutenant General Marine made up his mind and said with a gloomy expression, don't panic, they don't have enough energy to fight back now, let's increase firepower. If Whitebeard is resolved today, we will be waiting for a higher title in the future. Quote. The Marines, who were a little tired from the non-stop shelling, were now inspired by the words of Lieutenant General Marine, and the fire was even more rapid, and Whitebeard became weak under their threat. Father, those damn Marines suddenly increased their artillery fire. We can't resist it. Whitebeard got the report, his face condensed. Little ones. There was a burst of response. Everyone went all out, now line up and assist the 3rd Marine battleship. Chapter 236. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Whitebeard has been in the Grand Line for so long, I have to say that his vision is still extremely vicious. At a glance, it was the third ship in the middle headed by the camp in front of him. Under Whitebeard's fierce ruling, a group of people lined up quickly, and Whitebeard snorted. Little ones, from now on, follow my gunfire to fight against Marine. The weaker stand behind, the strong ones stand in the front and be the main force. Under the smooth arrangement of Whitebeard, all the pirates lined up in an orderly formation. Whitebeard's combat strategy was formed in an instant, and then in the mutual attack, the Whitebeard's pirates swiftly attacked in a swift manner to cover their ears. Marines as expected, the force of the team is gradually decreasing. Lieutenant General, their attack has become neat and orderly, and our shells can't last for that long. A Marine explained the situation on the scene to Lieutenant General Marine. Lieutenant General Marine condensed and looked at him. The organized team was anxious for a while. Give me a tight counterattack, no one is allowed to escape. When the ammunition runs out, I will send a message to the headquarters to add. Lieutenant General Marine of the 3rd Warship had a much harder tone. It's not that he is really unsustainable, but this time the attack has been issued a military order. If Whitebeard is not killed, then he will die. On the contrary, if Whitebeard dies, then he will be paid a large sum of money. The reward is very impressive, and even promised to give him the default Marine Admiral for the next term. This is sheer temptation. May I ask anyone who works in Marine who doesn't want to be promoted to a higher post? So for him, no matter what, it must be a battle to win. Encouraged by Lieutenant General Marine, the morale of the soldiers greatly increased, and the people on both sides were entangled in an inextricable relationship. Advertisement. At the same time, what? Need to add. Isn't it just to capture a Whitebeard? How much ammunition is needed? War Buddha was a little hysterical, but he did not expect that a small Whitebeard would consume so much force. After all, he sent 5 warships. Not to mention that these 5 warships, placed in normal conditions, are enough to fight the next wanted criminal with a bounty of over 80 million. What's more, there are spare ammunition, and the War Buddha knows the cunningness of Whitebeard, so people have prepared ammunition for one more battleship to enter. Unexpectedly, at this juncture, they actually contacted the headquarters with a phone worm, asking for battle supplies. The Buddha even said that he had been dissatisfied with their behavior. This Marine, who came to report, was a little frightened, but had to bite the bullet and express his opinion. The approach of Lieutenant General is to take the form of bombardment to deal with Whitebeard, and Whitebeard also responded. What a idiot. Unattainable. The Buddha knocked on the table angrily. Shu was too furious, and the table under his palm turned into powder in an instant. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. The Marshal calmed down. The Marine was a little cowardly, maybe because he was afraid of affecting him, he evaded the fact. And the reason why the Lieutenant General did this, everyone said that if it succeeds, the Marshal will be given the title of Marine Admiral. So no one at the scene dared to refute his actions. Marine's words became quieter as they went to the back, but they still fell into the ears of the War Buddha. This bastard. The body of the War Buddha trembled, and the coercion on his body was revealed, but the little Marine in front of him trembled. Advertisement. Marshal, is it possible that they are all wrong? Little Marine asked tentatively. Shit. War Buddha yelled. Lousy just told him that if he could kill Whitebeard this time, he would only give him the power to compete with Admiral, but he deliberately distorted the facts. With such a large amount of force, it's unexpected to find the headquarters for supplies. It's unreasonable. There was a natural pressure in the words of the Buddha, suppressing the little Marine in front of him and couldn't speak. After a slight pause, the Buddha re-questioned, which area has the situation expanded now? Little Marine replied tremblingly. Now our team is dealing with the Whitebeard team and is in a stalemate, so the Lieutenant General wants to use this to send us ammunition reinforcements. The War Buddha snorted coldly, and his words revealed a serious prestige. There is no need to supply, so many troops have been sent, and it is only a tie. This kind of lieutenant who can only use shells has no value in reusing it. The Buddha of War was really angry to the extreme, and he didn't say much after a few words. Little Marine lowered his head and shivered. Okay, let's inform the little one. Little Marine trembled his thighs and walked out. Although the punishment he received this time was part of his fanfare, he didn't think so. Instead, he felt that the practice of fighting Buddha was really impersonal, and his human nature was weak. On the other side, Marine battleship. What? The headquarters doesn't give us more firepower. The Lieutenant General was a little unbelievable. He originally thought that his request would be granted, but he did not expect that the Buddha of War would be so reckless. The old coffin of the War Buddha, previously promised to give me the title of admiral, but now he refuses to give me reinforcements. He must be afraid that Laozi will threaten his position when he becomes admiral. Advertisement. At this point, Admiral still feels that all this is the fault of the Buddha, and even thinks that the Buddha is jealous of him. For a while, he was also a little speechless, and the pirates under his hands were a little surprised when he heard the order of the Buddha. What? There is no arms reinforcements. I lied that I was the next admiral, and now I can't even get a reinforcement. That's it, such a person as our leader may be able to take our lives in. Admiral's voice against the position in the bottom became louder and louder, and the latter slammed the morale-boosting banner in his palm on the ground. Who allowed you to refute me? He was just a crisp sentence, which shocked everyone present. You don't want to think about it yourself, think about it, and when it comes to military ranks, there is something among you that can match me. If there is no, just shut up honestly. The lieutenant general seemed to be hit by the pain point. The tone is even more brutal. The battle is not over yet. Besides, even if we fail, it shouldn't be our fault, but the strength of the Whitebeard pirates is too strong. Those who use this to blame their strength can get out of here as soon as possible. Although the lieutenant general is arrogant, his inspiring skills are still there. In just a few words, many people speak to him, and all of Admiral's words are the truth. As a result, the morale on Marine's side was completely picked up. The soldiers began to attack Whitebeard's ship with precision and skill with a handful of artillery fire. Chapter 237. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Father, the enemy's lieutenant general, I don't know what skill he used to make all the Marines' morale up. Whitebeard's brows tightened when he heard the report from his men. Although the battle depends on the strength, but facing the 5 warships with sufficient firepower, Whitebeard is obviously invincible. How should this be good? Whitebeard whispered softly. He has been traversing the Grand Line for so long, and this is the first time he feels tricky. Marine seems to be determined to eat his ship this time. Don't be afraid, if he is coming head on, we will face them head on. Whitebeard hesitated for a long time, and finally came to this conclusion. Whitebeard shook his head and didn't even think about it. If it was really lost, it would be a fate, but even if it fell into Marine's hands, he would definitely protect his little ones to the death. Whitebeard glanced affectionately at the people who were fighting under his eyes. They were all their devoted relatives, and Marine was never allowed to hurt them at all. Thinking of this, Whitebeard maximized the power of shock fruit in his hand. Little ones, go all out, I will cover for you. Hearing Whitebeard's roar, the crew under 10 was startled. Daddy. After all, Whitebeard has always been a behind-the-scenes role, and now he not only has to take the initiative, but also has to cover them, which shows what Whitebeard has for them. But changing the direction is enough to see the urgency of this situation. Advertisement. We will take care of Marine without delaying. Me too. My father is so kind to me, even if I die, I will protect my father. The roars from below rushed into Whitebeard's ears, and immediately there were tears in his eyes, and everyone's morale rose to the extreme at this moment. On the other side, Marine warship. Lieutenant General, there is really no way, their ability is too strong. Lieutenant General's face was already black as a coal ball. If he couldn't win this time, he was afraid that he would be killed by the old coffin of the war Buddha when he returned. Even said, it is not certain whether we can go back alive. Thinking of this, the body of the position expanded rapidly, and it seemed that he had made a great determination, and his body shape was like a huge hydrogen balloon, growing rapidly. This, Lieutenant General, what's wrong with you? How could it suddenly become like this? Is there no hope anymore? Even the Lieutenant General has been forced by the battle to become abnormal. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. Marines underneath shouted one after another. The Lieutenant General looked restless, staring at Marine who had just said he was abnormal, and the corners of his mouth suddenly raised strange smiles. The Lieutenant General stretched out his huge hand and squeezed the neck of the Marine just now. The Marine's complexion instantly turned pale as paper. With just a snap, little Marine's neck was broken alive by the Lieutenant General's. Lieutenant General's complexion condensed, and even a bloodthirsty smile flooded his mouth. Dead. Dead. Several Marines looked a little dignified. They couldn't imagine that the Lieutenant General would suddenly act on them. Advertisement. A violent smile appeared on the corner of Jiwei's mouth, and there was a jealous smile in his mouth. I'm helping you. For you, I have maximized the power of devil fruit. It's just. He suddenly laughed. It's just that. Maximize the strength of the fruit. It must be advantages and disadvantages. Well, it can help you quickly fight against a group of people like Whitebeard. Although you people are not very strong, you should still have the most basic reasoning ability. But you should know that devil fruit is a product of the sea. With such a great ability to help you kill, it is inevitable to kill a few if the strength is too strong. The words of Lieutenant General revealed a sense of mystery. He completely blamed devil fruit for his deliberate retaliatory fault. Although everyone underneath was puzzled, he was completely convinced by the Lieutenant General's words. It turned out to be so, and it's justified. Indeed, there is nothing wrong with killing our forces at this moment. Several people underneath actually said something that was considerate. From the bottom of her heart, Jiwei felt that the people in front of her were a bunch of idiots, but still said with a smile on her face, "It is true, but you believe me, it is also a great relief. So now, everyone is rushing forward, and I will cover you." Everyone felt very relieved to receive Lieutenant General Gray. At the same time, the fighting spirit was also stimulated and rushed forward courageously. Under the swift impact of the marine warship, everyone joined forces to fight back. Whitebeard's power was weakened by their pursuit. "I can't help myself." Whitebeard was really irritated, his eyes twisted into a gap, the pressure on his body burst out quickly, and the power of shock fruit became incomparable, and he quickly stepped on everyone. "What should I do now?" "Yeah, Daddy, this time marine seems to be particularly tricky." Hearing the report from the person under his hand, Whitebeard roared and jumped forward, his feet touching the surface of the water. Advertisement. Everyone stared at Whitebeard's flexible posture in surprise. How powerful is this? Demon fruit power is afraid of the power of the sea. This is something everyone knows, but Whitebeard can actually volley on the sea. It's really impressive. Under Whitebeard's posture, everyone's eyes moved closely with him. "Little ones, support me behind you. Without my permission, you are not allowed to go forward and attack." Whitebeard shouted, and the pirate behind him quickly followed his movements, carefully protecting Whitebeard's back. "Oh, it's so stupid to use this trick." Lieutenant General squinted his eyes, and the corners of his mouth formed a strange arc. "Little ones." He gave a rough shout, and the person under his hand straightened up quickly as if he had been beaten with blood. Now, all personnel are going to attack the weakest group of Whitebeard's back. Yes. There was a rustle, and on the surface there were still densely packed marines on the warships. In fact, everyone had quickly walked behind the Whitebeard pirates, only to see that the last group of people was quickly beheaded by marine in a calm manner. So, the Lieutenant General had a sarcasm smile, facing Whitebeard in front of him, and laughed loudly. "Whitebeard, you still don't know how to repent, you want to fight with such a strong force of mine." Whitebeard was naturally disdainful. "Huh, you are just a villain. You actually want to use these forces to defeat us. What a idiot." Drink. With a long drink, Whitebeard's shock fruit quickly moved forward. Chapter 238. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. It's really shameless to dare to be inferior to oneself even if you are so stubborn. The Lieutenant General gave a rough shout and deliberately delayed Whitebeard's time, but it was a pity that Whitebeard's attention was completely focused on the battle in front of him, and his eyes moved quickly following the actions of the Lieutenant General. "Oh, it's a trick." The Lieutenant General smiled strangely. Whitebeard reacted. "What did you say?" Then, when he turned his head back, a corpse had fallen on the ship behind him, and blood was dripping from the deck of the Whitebeard ship, and he looked at it in a mess. "You." Whitebeard's eyes quickly turned red, like a beast's anger. "I'm going to kill you." I saw Whitebeard's movements swiftly, leaping to the side of the Lieutenant General, and shock fruit's power was instantly maximized. "Why? Do you regret it now? Whitebeard, you are still a little famous pirate in this sea area in vain. You can't even see such a simple thing. Whiten. It's no wonder, based on your IQ, it's not surprising that we can't see the cause and course of this incident. The Lieutenant General will look like he is big and big." Whitebeard is no longer interested in wrangling with him, his anger burst out in a moment, like a monster about to be bloodthirsty. With every step he took, the sea underneath shattered a piece of water, causing an uproar. Seeing that the originally slightly surging seawater gathered together in an instant, forming a huge water column. "Oh, Whitebeard, I have to say, your strength is really commendable." There was a sense of approval on the plane, but the contempt in his eyes was not deceiving. "Stop talking nonsense, die for me now." Advertisement. Whitebeard roared, his thick fist knocked on the soft abdomen of the position, but for a moment, the position of the general's face seemed to be captured instinct. Pain. Unspeakable pain. Lieutenant General's complexion can no longer be described as embarrassing. His abdomen seems to be thrown into a juicer to stir, and even his hands and feet are so stiff that it is difficult to respond. The lieutenant general vomited a few times, but the blood in his mouth had not been spit out. Whitebeard's fist was still trapped in his soft belly, with a cruel expression. Do you think these are enough? People who dare to touch me, Whitebeard, I will make you regret your choice today. Whitebeard's rough voice fell, and the lieutenant general's complexion was a little stretched, and Marine's complexion behind him condensed. Lieutenant General, are you okay? Whitebeard, quickly let go of the position, Lieutenant. Otherwise you will die miserably. Several Marines said one after another, and Whitebeard looked ugly in their words. You only know that your Lieutenant Admiral can't be bullied, but you also thought about my dead crew. Whitebeard's words were a bit hysterical, and Marine on the deck of the ship looked suffocated, but after all, he didn't say anything. On the contrary, it was contaminated with an air of disdain. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. You are a pirate yourself. You died for the sake of the people. Your so-called relatives are all a bunch of rubbish. Rubbish is not worthy of living in this world. Hearing the words of the Marines, Whitebeard's originally furious body and trembling hands quickly calmed down, and the corners of his mouth were tightly pressed down. Do you think that lousy told you this to explain to you? His eyes were a little redder than before, the strength of his palms loosened quickly, and the body of the lieutenant general was also soft on the board. On. I saw Whitebeard's figure thunderous, and he rushed to the Marine who had said those things before, and a bloodthirsty smile flooded the corners of his mouth. Lousy is just telling you that none of the people who killed me should survive. Advertisement. As soon as Whitebeard's voice fell, the power of shock fruit was released, like a beast that was released, and the pressure on his body was revealed. With a punch, the Marines arranged in a row quickly fell to the ground, their expressions frightened as if they had seen the scariest ghost in the world. Marine on the other ship's board saw it, and his expression was condensed. Although they knew Whitebeard's strength was extraordinary, they didn't expect him to be so. The Marines in that column are all to deal with his carefully selected Marine team. Whitebeard was able to kill them when everyone didn't react. It's incredible. As a result, when the Marines faced Whitebeard, their faces didn't look good. Lousy. I want you all to die. Whitebeard's rough drink seemed to be a resounding thunder, hitting everyone's ears, like Satan walking out of hell. I advise you, get out of the warship, it's a big crime to offend Marine. Jiwei. Lieutenant General Jiwei, come and save us. We don't want to die yet. Whitebeard waved a big hand, and there were dense cracks in the air. The sound were so big that they attacked everyone and quickly solved the group of people in front of them. The Marines all took a breath. Are you still going to let that trash save you? It's an idiot. Whitebeard's voice was cold, and he punched again, knocking the opposite Marine to the ground through the board. Ha ha ha. The Lieutenant General let out a weird laugh. It is really interesting to say that I am a trash. Advertisement. I saw the shape of the figure flashed, and the smile at the corner of his mouth gradually deepened, and he leapt into the sky quickly, taking a deep breath. Inspiring fruit. Whitebeard's complexion condensed, and he locked tightly on the figure of the Lieutenant General in the upper air. I saw the fallen body before, whether it was Marine or the pirate, all of them overflowed with black air from the end. And those black air gradually gathered in the sky, covering a piece of sky. It turned out to be a person with the ability to inspire fruit. Whitebeard's time as he's is not shallow, and how can he not understand the power of motivating fruits? This motivational fruit can quickly inspire the morale of others. On the contrary, if the person's mind is not righteous, it can also quickly dampen the confidence of the person. It can be regarded as the fruit of the mind. The Marine just now firmly believes in his words, and there is also the ability to inspire the fruit in it. It's just that such a powerful mind fruit has been corrupted by the Lieutenant General. What the Lieutenant Generals are doing now is to draw the motivational power of all the dead in front of them on themselves, and the body of the position is gradually turning black under the black energy. Whitebeard, it seems that you are also a little bit aware of the ability to inspire fruits. The voice of the Lieutenant General changed a little, and he paused slightly. Yes, I tried to hide this matter until today, but I didn't expect it to be corrupted in your pursuit. The Lieutenant General's body was in the air, and his voice was like a ghost. Whitebeard, I advise you not to fight, you are just rubbish. Chapter 239. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Naturally, Whitebeard will not be so easy to give in. Although the Lieutenant General's mental fruit strength is indeed quite famous on the Grand Line, this is definitely not the reason for him to give in. Are you ready? Lieutenant General drew a smile on his lips. The game begins. Lieutenant General's body is like a huge balloon, soaring into the sky. Whitebeard steps on the air, staring at him with a fierce face. I want to see what tricks you can do. Then you can look forward to it. Lieutenant General screamed, and a cloud of black air gradually condensed in his palm. Whitebeard knew that the visitor was unkind, but he had no fear in his heart. His eyes seemed to have experienced the vicissitudes of life, looking at the Lieutenant General. His eyes are as deep as a pool of water, and his legs are on the sea. The originally wide sea begins to boil in a moment, like a pot of boiling water. Gradually, waves of waves floated on the originally calm sea. From the beginning, Qin Luo watched the battle from a distance. The boiling of the sea bottom felt like Satan's wailing, beating his heart. I saw a cloud of black shadows floating on the surface of the originally wide and waveless sea, and a piece of crimson had floated on Whitebeard's surface. His legs were on the surface of the sea, and the power of shock fruit spread thousands of miles in an instant. Roar. The volume gradually coming from the surface of the sea was like a beast coming under the sky. The coercion contained in 520 would be difficult to distinguish if it weren't for a figure of Whitebeard's level. The seawater gradually surging inward, forming a huge vortex, sucking in a large amount of seawater. Position. You have to look at it now, the overlords that will appear soon, but even lousy may not be able to kill the existence, now it depends on your good fortune. Whitebeard's voice became cold, and one after another Sea King's huge heads appeared in the sea, terrifying. They all felt the power of Whitebeard's shock fruit and came forward to show off. Advertisement. But I have to say that what Whitebeard is doing now is nothing less than the same thing. After all, these Sea Kings came together when they noticed something wrong in the sea. The power of Whitebeard attracted Sea Kings, but they didn't have the power to control them. Being able to use this trick was enough to show Whitebeard's determination. I saw Sea Kings rushing out of the water one by one, stirring up huge waves. The Lieutenant General's expression condensed. What, I can actually summon Sea Kings. Whitebeard's figure swiftly shuttled around Sea King's body, without the slightest intention of returning to the boat to avoid the limelight. Lieutenant General's face had changed from the shock just now to as gray as earth. Madman. This man is simply a lunatic. Actually summoned Sea Kings to deal with him. He didn't even think about the position. Whitebeard would make a dangerous move. This man simply wants to die together. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. Thinking of what he was about to face, Lieutenant General's expression became desperate. A lot of Sea Kings. These are more powerful than the previous singles. What to do? Lieutenant General, we don't want to die yet. Hearing the complaints of the people under his hand, Jiwei became angry, and couldn't help but shout, "What are you making? I can't go out if you can't survive. Why don't you think of a way to retreat?" The only way he can think of is to make Marine prepare to retreat. After all, his life is more important than Whitebeard's head. He knew that he was still naive and thought that as long as he returned, the Buddha of War would prepare a lot of titles and benefits waiting for him. Advertisement. As everyone knows, no matter whether he can successfully escape this time, there is only a dead end waiting for him. Jihaha. Position. This is the consequence of moving the old man's crew. Whitebeard laughed loudly, with a bloodthirsty smell in the corners of his mouth. He turned his head back quickly. Little ones, now are all ready, hide as much as possible, and Dad will come to cover you. Whitebeard's approach is to use his own life and death to open a way for his men. The eyes of everyone on the pirate ship were tearful. Let's not go. Father, we are all to blame for being too weak, and now it has caused him to fall into embarrassment. Sorry Daddy, I can't help you. Hearing the self-blame of the people under his hand, Whitebeard also felt very uncomfortable. You don't have to blame yourself, I have the power of shock fruit, and I can't die. Little ones, I order you as the captain, go back now. The Whitebeard pirate ship slowly sailed far away in the rough sea. Seeing them all back, Whitebeard had a wish. Then, position, now it's time for us to compete. Grid's complexion condensed, and he wanted to scold him as a lunatic, but the huge snake-shaped Sea Kings above his head had been suspended in the air, and his huge jaw was attacking him. Damn it, are you going to die here? The air around him froze, and Jiwei opened his eyes tremblingly. The panic on his face had not faded, but the huge jaw on his head had froze. This is. Jiwei's legs couldn't stop shaking, resisting the fear in his heart, raised his head. Sea King's movements have stopped. Advertisement. His lower abdomen warmed, and a trace of golden liquid flowed out of his lower body. Jiwei was scared to pee his pants. Although shameful, Jiwei seems to have found something interesting. Jia Jia. Jiwei let out a cold weird smile. Whitebeard, you originally wanted to use the Sea Kings drawn by shock fruit to deal with me, but it's a pity. His tone seems to be really sorry for Whitebeard, but the coldness in his eyes is like a black iron that makes people feel fearful. It's a pity, you have a lot of calculations, and you have missed that the fruit of motivation is one of the few spiritual control fruit. With this kind of killer in your palm, you are using a mindless Sea Kings to deal with it, it's really nonsense. Whitebeard changed his tone under his words. What do you mean? What do you mean? Ha ha ha, you'll find out later. The grid's complexion eased a bit, as if he had a certainty of winning. Now you are dead, Whitebeard. I saw him make a long drink, as if a huge bird and beast were flying in the air, and his skin color became even darker. My Sea Kings, get on me now. Kill Whitebeard. The figure was as fast as lightning, and I saw the Sea Kings present, all facing Whitebeard together, opened their bloodthirsty mouths, like a dry well, and swallowed up the life in front of them. This. Whitebeard's brows condensed. It's really dangerous this time. He did not expect that the spiritual fruit of the position could actually control Sea Kings. It's unheard of. Ha ha ha, take it to death, Whitebeard, I will put incense on your grave in the future to pay homage to your stupidity. Chapter 240. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. The Sea Kings above his head made a hissing noise. Father, we are back. Just as Whitebeard was preparing to fight, the Whitebeard pirate ship appeared in front of him again. Whitebeard's expression changed. Why are you back? Hurry up. Get out of here. We thought about it before. We can't leave Dad here alone against so many Sea Kings, not to mention that the position is so tricky, we can't worry about it. Hearing what the crew said, Whitebeard had no extra energy to refute. Little ones, the position has already controlled most of the Sea Kings. Now all the crew members are ordered, and now go back. If you can escape one, you can quickly escape. Hearing what Whitebeard said, the expressions of the people present changed. What? It's incredible to be able to control Sea Kings. Then we are in danger now. Daddy, quickly get on the boat, let's escape together. Whitebeard's feet were in the air, and the power of shock fruit in his palm did not stop for a moment. Little ones, the situation is urgent now, I will cover. Whoever stays here again, I will expel him from this pirate group. Whitebeard let out a rough roar, and with a hard blow, he solved another Sea Kings. The roar of Sea Kings was heard in his ears. Whitebeard closed his eyes tightly, and when he was getting tired and unable to resist, a dart flew behind him. It was a member of the Whitebeard pirate ship who made it. Father, we want to live and die with you. Everyone got off the boat, their faces solemn. Gia Gia, it's really affectionate, but the more desperate you are, the happier I am. Advertisement. Lieutenant General's complexion was as dark as ink, and the killing intent on his body became thicker. Under the call of the position, the Sea Kings in the sea are like monsters bursting out of beasts, smashing them at Whitebeard. Such a rapid attack lasted for 3 full hours. And Whitebeard was exhausted when he was dry. Whitebeard looked at the dry man in front of him, his eyes were a little wet. GG, Whitebeard, do you want to kneel down and beg for mercy now? I can still plan to forgive your crew. The cynicism of the position was reduced to nothingness in Whitebeard's ears. Whitebeard's eyes were empty, and at this time only one sentence echoed in his mind, which was what he had said on the blue sea before. What I want most is my family. But now, he can't even protect his family. It's really useless. Whitebeard's hands are already paralyzed, and his movements are even a little confused. He slaps back quickly, but is numb and stiff. Are you going to die? Died in the hands of a lieutenant general, the grand line hasn't finished yet, so I'm really unwilling. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. Whitebeard glanced at his crew, his eyes gradually darkening. A huge Sea Kings hovered over Whitebeard's head with its mouth open. Jung. There was a crisp sound. The expected pain did not come. Whitebeard opened his eyes. Lu Yun's handsome figure unfolded in his eyes. At this time, Qin Luo, dressed in a red robe, was like a savior descending from the sky, blocking a fatal blow for Whitebeard. It's really ironic. Whitebeard couldn't help muttering, looking at Qin Luo against the light. Lu Yun, what are you doing here? Advertisement. Whitebeard is obviously still dissatisfied with Qin Luo's robbing of devil fruit before, and his tone of voice is a bit stiff. Come and save you. Qin Luo smiled at the corner of his mouth. Whitebeard couldn't believe it. Save me. He didn't understand why Qin Luo wanted to save himself, but what he didn't even understand was what qualifications Qin Luo had to say with such certainty that he could be saved. After all, these are hordes of Sea Kings. No matter how powerful Qin Luo is it possible that one enemy can never succeed? Qin Luo seemed to see his suspicion and didn't explain much, with a smile at the corner of his mouth. Just wait and see. After speaking, he flew up and soared into the air. Oh, this. Grid's complexion condensed, and his eyes followed closely on the leaping Qin Luo. It's Lu Yun. Jie Wei hesitated a little bit, seemingly unbelievable, but a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Ha ha ha, it's a trick of God. I didn't expect it would really be you. The smile of the position is a bit greedy. Lu Yun, I am still worried that with a whitebeard, the old coffin of the war Buddha will not make me admiral so easily. Now there is one more you, I am afraid that he will also, there is no reason to refuse. After a little pause, he seemed to think of something, and the smile at the corner of his mouth gradually expanded. Oh, I almost forgot. I would also like to thank our whitebeard. If he hadn't attracted so many sea kings, I would still not find a spiritual kind. The fruit still has this kind of power. Zero seeking flowers. With a bloodthirsty smile on the corners of Jiwei's mouth, there was a grunting voice in his mouth. Little ones. Come on to me. As soon as everyone's words fell, the sea kings in front of him jumped in front of Qin Luo and opened his mouth. With a scream, Qin Luo was swallowed by the fat sea kings. What? Everyone present looked at each other. They all guessed that Lu Yun had to deal with so many sea kings, but they didn't expect that it would be so vulnerable. It is unimaginable. Advertisement. It's just that they don't know that Qin Luo deliberately sneaked into Sea King's body, the purpose is to destroy them. This Lu Yun is really rubbish, I thought it was so powerful. Grid snorted with disdain, and issued an order to Sea Kings. You can pull that person out, tie it up, and bring me back to Marine headquarters. Sea Kings groaned, seeming to understand people. After a while, the originally fierce Sea King's complexion changed suddenly. What's wrong? Even Jiwei noticed and couldn't help asking. You beast, shouldn't it be eaten badly? If you want to die, you can pull Lu Yun out and die, or I will kill you now. Jie Wei roared. Sea Kings roared furiously, trying to fight against the words of the position, but the eyes of the position were really cold, scared him to hide. The stomach became more and more noisy. Sea Kings started jumping up and down while exclaiming. His position could not be stopped, so he had to yell. Stop. Waste. Bang. With a loud noise, Sea King's abdomen formed a long gap from the tail. This gap runs through his entire body, like a huge beast being torn apart from the middle. Sea King struggled painfully, and saw that the face was as earthy as his face, even his mental power was useless. You trash. Stop the noise and spit out Lu Yun. It's just that no matter how much he shouts, it won't help. The whole body of Sea Kings that has been tortured by Qin Luo is shaking. As the culprit, Qin Luo jumped out of Sea King's abdomen after a loud noise. It is not fast.